your beautiful budget, your beautiful allocations here and there. No.
But perception matters, isn't it?
It does.
Just late last year, over 50% of Ghanaians felt that the country was going the wrong direction, going by the Afrobarometer report. It did reflect in the elections. We're starting off a new government that has 60 days, fastest, mobilization of their government. In fact, if you take a look at the 120-day pact that the president has put out, they're achieving, if I'm not mistaken, over 60% of the promises that they've laid out in terms of appointment, nomination, 24-hour economy. You know even much more than I do now, isn't it?
Okay, let's go into
They're checking the boxes for you, isn't it?
Okay.
Yeah.
24-hour economy.
Right.
You have so many definitions of that. Last weekend, Mr. Guzitano, the presidential advisor on this policy, was in Parliament. He gave a different version of...
How did you listen to that? Because the criticism from the presidency was that the minority had boycotted the process. You didn't even give an audience to Mr. Guzitano, who was then going to present to you the minority, who was then complaining about the real definition of the 24-hour economy during the post-budget workshop. You didn't show up as a minority on that.
Oh, members were there.
But for Guzitano, you didn't participate.
They were watching on the screens.
Why not in the chamber and asking
questions?
They
had issues, but I will come to that. But I'm telling you that 24-hour economy, Mr. Guzitano, no clear-cut definition.
But you missed the opportunity. That's my argument. You missed the opportunity.
It doesn't mean I cannot interrogate that policy. The budget came, and Ghanaians were expecting the so-called 24-hour economy, 24-hour, and music around it, the whole country. Then Mr. Atufosi, my good friend, came and said, the policy will now be brought to Parliament. We thought the incentive package, the budget line allocation towards the rollout of the policy would have been attached as an appendix to the budget or something of the sort. It never happened. Secondly, you have 5 key sectors of the economy that feature broadly in the budget. Education, health, interior, roads, you understand, and agriculture. This budget did not follow that trend. One, education was there, correct. Health, interior, because of internal security and what have you. Budget on roads did not feature. Look at the allocation for roads and look at the allocation for defense and what have you. What I'm trying to say is that the priorities of government, especially with regards to how much government is seeking to spend, a government that is talking about a lean government and cutting down on expenditure is asking Ghanaians through their representatives in Parliament to approve 290 billion Ghana cedis, as against the 259 billion in 2024. A government that is seeking to cut expenditure has rather added over 40 billion to last year's appropriation. So it's first question.
Yeah, but my point is, you're asking all of these questions because you did not, or you don't seem to be cooperating with the government. And I was just pointing out to what happened with the 24-hour economy, for instance. I've heard the former Information Minister Agyapong ask from government the clear-cut explanation on the 24-hour economy. You are also doing same now, and so many other NPP members. But when it mattered most, the individual who was appointed by the president to, provide some answers on the 24-hour economy, then you, the minority, said, we're not engaging with you. You did not show up during the post-budget workshop where Guzitano was present to answer questions. What really accounted for that?
It doesn't mean we cannot interrogate the document he brought.
Yeah, but you missed an opportunity.
You asked me a question. Right. I've given you my view or version on 24 hours. And why we feel it was a policy or a gimmick to throw dust into the eyes of the youth of this country. Because if government were to be keen on that policy, it would have found favor and space within the budget.
It was mentioned, but there was no clear line.
He said he was now going to bring the
further documentation on that.
Secondly, to talk about Women's Development Bank, that government says, oh, we are going to help our women with microcredit here and there. Then comes the budget. 51.3 million Ghana cedis was allocated to commence the process for the setting up of the Women's Development Bank. You ask yourself, what is the seed capital, minimum capital requirement for the setting up of a bank? 400 million Ghana cedis is required. Even the DFI, Development Finance Institution, you need between 300 to 1.2 billion to do that.
The governor of the central bank was there when the budget was presented.
He was there. He's my good friend.
Yeah, he was there. Probably he had some plans.
I saw you.
Some plans of perhaps giving a special dispensation.
Oh, yes. I know him when he was deputy governor at the time with Dr. Wampa.
So that shouldn't be a challenge for the NDC, should it?
Well, Ben, but you put your money where your mouth is. 51.3 million.
Yeah.
Agriculture, Matt talked about, didn't feature in the first 5 top items of government, especially when government is talking about agribusiness, modernizing agri. The figures does not show a government that wants to create jobs within the agricultural space. The 1D1Fs that we started, we thought it was a good program. Some of the companies are in operation, and government was going to continue with that project because some of the projects that we inherited, most of them completed. And talk about the Eurojust project that President Kufuor secured financing for, that President Mahama continued. Nana Kufuor also came to complete them. You understand? You talk about this policy of Nkukon Kitinkiti and all those things. We don't see them as growth pillars to create the
I'll tell you what my impression of the 24-hour economy is. And sorry, I'm believing that point.
You want to be a spokesperson?
Not necessarily, but to tell you my understanding of it. Okay. 3 jobs, 3 shifts, 3 different people, right? That's the generic explanation out there.
Within which institution?
Have you heard that yourself? You said you're using the document from Gusi Channel. Have you seen that document? Does it speak to this approach, an explanation that resonates with a lot of people?
I know how unpractical that approach is. For example,
it won't work?
It won't work. 24, every economy thrives on energy. As we speak, we have power crisis. To sustain any policy called 24-hour economy will be dependent on regular supply of power. We are going through some challenges in power. How can you sustain that policy? Number 2, even in the public service, go to the ministries by now. 5 p.m., 4 p.m., people are rushing home. Who is going to stay and to do what work at the ministry? All departments open. People go to work 8 to what time, close, then another shift comes, and at what period? 24-hour economy. You should have even provided a budget line for incentive to workers who are going to do those 3 shifts. Where is it in the budget?
The alternative could be that you cut down.
Even the printing of the budget. Right. 276 copies. We couldn't do that in 24 hours.
Yeah, but I get your argument.
So private sector.
Yeah.
Where is the incentive package in the budget for companies that you want to lure into believing into this policy that I don't see head or tail of, and ask them, okay, Mr. Company A, you produce vaccines. Can you do a 24-hour shift by recruiting 2 more shifts to run the company? Tax breaks, you need parliamentary approval.
Right. They have the numbers there.
Oh, we are not talking numbers.
Right.
We need the fine details of the policy to operationalize.
But just to give you
the program,
and just to give you some examples, so for you to see the possibility, but for you to see the possibility or otherwise, your party says it is possible. So I believe everything should be possible.
With
then,
God,
isn't it?
all things are possible.
I see, great. In the public sector, the hospitals, the public ones, they operate 24 hours.
Yeah.
In the private sector, you look at some of the petroleum, companies, the fuel stations. Some of them not necessarily 24 hours, but go deep into the night.
How difficult
at around midnight. You know that. So if you have a big push, which the NDC talks about, you could give some stimulus to these people.
Another hoax is the big push. Government says they want to inject $10 billion into what they term the big push. The budget line was about 800 million. Times 5 would be what? 4. So over 4 years, you would have spent 4 billion. So where is the big push and on which line items? Ghanaians want specifics, not about the talk.
Bank of Africa, as strong as a group, as close as a partner.
Where Duraplas goes, water flows.
PS Industries has introduced a new roofing system known as ColorLink Plus.
Flamingo paint, simply superior. Syntax tank, are you strong? Are you tough?
Cherry Tree Properties. We develop spaces as though we were going to occupy them. Promise to stop Galamsey. The president's government is doing a number of things. It's done an audit of all 1,209 small-scale mining licenses that were issued. And this has led to the revocation of 55 small-scale licenses granted after December 7, 2024. River guards have been introduced. Questions are being asked where the police failed, where soldiers failed. How are river guards going to do any differently? And just this week, the president has also been on the go, introducing what is another to this fight. This morning we're asking, how far, how well is the NDC government doing in tackling Galamsey? They are seeking to amend the LI 2462, where the NPP was seeking to revoke it entirely. Why the difference? Didn't they also join that charge? Anas Saramiyao Anas is ecstatic, elated at an 18 million United States dollars jury verdict in the New Jersey County Court in Essex, and it's against Ken Agyapong. We will interrogate that and join the GJA that is commending the IGP for arresting a suspect in the Ahmed Swale murder. And the MPP appears to be in arms with national security. This is the second time the national security officials have stormed the home of a former government official, and the NPP, particularly the minority in parliament, is accusing the national security and government collectively of conducting raids against the dictates of the law. We have some exclusive information about this to share with you, so stay with us. It's Agyapong being gagged. She says she can't be shut up. We'll be right back. I'm Samson Ladi Anyenini.
For decades, we have helped businesses connect with their trade partners all over the globe. From Ghana to Burkina Faso, Côte d'Ivoire, Benin, Togo, Senegal, China, Morocco, France, Netherlands, and many other countries. We have made it possible to bring Ghana to the world. We have brought small and medium businesses closer to their customers across the regions in Ghana with our SME support facilities. We have brought relief and smiles to the faces of families with our employee personal loans. With our cutting-edge technology and digital support, we take the burden of complex thinking off you, making life simple. That is who we are, as close as a partner. Bank of Africa. We are indeed the African bank with the global reach.
You're strong and you're tough. Syntax tank Syntax tank. Ladies and gentlemen, I beg you, check your tongue and get Syntax. SINTEX. Where you're just over 25 years, we are made in Ghana water storage solution. You were green, you were blue, colors in here. They're great. That's it, your baha, your mom free water. We have over 400 agents nationwide. Just say Ghana Finance, yeah, baho. Find us on social media, Syntax Ghana. Not nominate here. Say Giovanni, Syntax, I need you in this community. And it's that simple. I will be there myself. Syntax Ghana page me. All right, so just like that, we're wrapping up inside Tessie. Syntax Tank! Hey, strong! Hey, strong!
To us trendsetters, to us fashion lovers, to us who flex with beautiful, unique and attractive fragrance, to us who sing of our magnificent life. Daring to feel different today means impacting a pleasant scent. For tomorrow's dawn, feel good, feel strong. Together let's break these rules and set new ones with slam. Together let's break these rules and set new ones with slam.
Excellent furnishing in a real estate business is a great deal for survival. My struggles as a young estate developer were cut short when I discovered Fernart Ghana. With quality furniture made from the finest woods and amazing after-sale service, Fernart Ghana changed my story with every single home I built. It's a one-stop shop that serves the interests of clients with a variety of living room and dining sets, solid wood kitchen installations, wardrobes, doors, cabinets, beds, pergolas, floor parquets, and many other wooden products that will last a lifetime. With Fernart Ghana, all clients are offered the opportunity to customize furniture to their specifications, and the smile on their faces says it all. Thanks to Fernart, now your home can look beautiful with furniture that would last for generations. Visit Fernart Ghana today and share my story. Locate us at Yaniba Estate, Osu, Accra, or call 0303 966 085 or 055 278 4097. Think wood, think Fernart.
March is Colorectal Cancer Awareness Month.
Have you attained 45 years and older? Notice blood in your stool? A family history of cancer? Then don't wait to have a colonoscopy. Early detection of cancer and effective treatment save lives.
There are weak points in the development and spread of cancers of the large bowel that we have control over to stop, to reduce the incidence and deaths from these cancers. Achieving this success depends on you and me. We are fully prepared. What about you?
Visit Mintuba Hospital and Coloproctology Center today or call us. Mintuba Hospital, First Ghana Colorectal Center, in to serve a peculiar health need.
Here's Kwame and Yao. After hours of planning, both have locked in the same perfect multi-bet. Big win for United, over 1.5. And both teams to score in the London Derby. But who could have picked Leicester over City? Or a high-scoring game at the Bridge? There's nothing worse than having your perfect multi-bet missing. But there's nothing better than having it saved. Bet Saver. Win, even if your bet misses.
Welcome back. And I begin as usual with my take. And I'm asking a very simple question. Anas, will he quit catching nation wreckers, the bad guys? The name Anas Aremiyao Anas has seen many dishonest officials named, shamed, and jailed. Some were cheating poor orphans at the orphanage. Some were stealing at the ports and got Professor Mills angry. Some were selling justice and they got Judge Georgina Wood, kicked them out of the courts. He caught others shortchanging the country, smuggling its precious cocoa. This country has used him to successfully fight the corrupt. Even in the court, politicians and presidents have made pledges about adopting his methods to fight corruption. And they got almost all of us loving and hailing Anas. But things have not been the same in recent times. He's human and subject to error and wrongdoing. I may disagree with him at times, but I refuse to join the crucify him calls. We will discuss the New Jersey jury's $18 million verdict in his favor. Whatever amount he gets eventually, I join him to celebrate his victory at this point.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Today, I stand before you not just as a journalist, but as a witness to history, a child of Ghana's turbulent past, and a soldier in the fight for truth. Yesterday in the Essex County Superior Court of New Jersey, an 8-member jury delivered a unanimous verdict holding Kennedy Agyapong, former Ghanaian MP, liable for defamation and awarding damages of $18 million. The ruling is more than a legal victory. It is a profound affirmation that truth matters, that justice is not a privilege of the powerful, and that the arc of history does indeed bend towards righteousness. My story begins long before this moment. I was born at the 37 Military Barracks in Accra, the son of the soldier who served in an era where power belonged to those who wielded the gun. I grew up watching my nation transition from military rule to democracy, witnessing firsthand the struggle of ordinary Ghanaians yearning for justice, transparency, and accountability. When Ghana finally embraced democracy, I knew that safeguarding it required more than just laws. It needed the unyielding courage of those willing to hold power accountable. That is why I chose journalism, not as a career, but as a calling. Over the years, my team and I have exposed corruption at the highest levels, from the corridors of politics to the halls of justice. But in fighting the corrupt, one becomes a target. Mr. Agyapong, in a desperate bid to silence me, labeled me a land grabber, an extortionist, a murderer, a tax evader, and a blackmailer who ought to be hanged. These were not just lies, they were calculated attempts to destroy my credibility and put my life in danger. While Ghana's legal system failed to deliver justice in 2018, the U.S. court upheld truth. This case was not easy. Proving defamation in the United States requires establishing actual malice by a clear and convincing evidence standard, one of the highest legal thresholds in the world. That the jury ruled 8-0 in my favor on every count is a testament to the fact that Mr. Agyapong acted with reckless disregard. Regrettably, Ghana's justice system has not always lived up to the principles of fairness and impartiality. When I sued Mr. Agyapong in 2018, despite his inability to legally substantiate his allegations, the court ruled against me, with Justice Barr scandalously branding me a terrorist instead of adjudicating the facts before him. This miscarriage of justice was later condemned by Supreme Court Justice Kolende, who rightly described it as a violent abuse of judicial authority. My fight has never been for personal gain, but for the soul of Ghana's democracy. This victory in the US sends a powerful message. The media cannot be silenced, truth cannot be buried, and those who wield power must be held accountable. Let this moment be a wake-up call to all who seek to erode the foundations of justice in Ghana. Let it remind us that democracy is not just about elections, but institutions that uphold the truth, courts that deliver justice without fear or favor, and citizens who refuse to accept corruption as the norm. To my legal team, Andrew Dehere Esquire, Atta Womega Esquire, Evans Salasi Adeka Esquire, and Odei Kuro Esquire, I am forever grateful for your dedication to justice. And to my supporters in Ghana and around the world, your unwavering belief in the fight strengthens my resolve. The battle against corruption continues. We will name, shame, and jail. Ghana deserves better, and I will never stop fighting for a future where justice is not a privilege of the powerful, but the right of every citizen. Thank you.
And whatever happens, I pray he is not discouraged from continuing his work, even if he may want to reduce resort to the agent provocateur principle or the most hated, quote-unquote, entrapment model. This country is a place where people don't have classrooms to sit in and study, hospitals to take care of their health, or even food to eat at times. This country still loses over $3 billion United States dollars each year to corruption. We need those who will fight it and fight it right. And that will be my take. I'll be right back. And I have the minister who has begun waging the campaign against Galamsey, the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, and MP for Elembele, Emmanuel Amakufibua, right here. To begin the very first segment, in the first about 20 minutes or so, we're having a discussion with him, subjecting some of the things he's trying to do to some scrutiny. And then Dr. Atta Kennedy, and I will ask Sewa, who is coordinator of the Eco-Conscious Citizens Group, will also join, and they may have a few questions for him as to whether or not his methods will work. We'll be right back.
For decades, we have helped businesses connect with their trade partners all over the globe. From Ghana to Burkina Faso, Côte d'Ivoire, Benin, Togo, Senegal, China, Morocco, France, Netherlands, and many other countries. We have made it possible to bring Ghana to the world. We have brought small and medium businesses closer to their customers across the regions in Ghana with our SME support facilities. We have brought relief and smiles to the faces of families with our employee personal loans. With our cutting-edge technology and digital support, we take the burden of complex thinking off you, making life simple. That is who we are, as close as a partner. Bank of Africa. We are indeed the African bank with the global reach.
Excellent furnishing in a real estate business is a great deal for survival. My struggles as a young estate developer were cut short when I discovered Fernart Ghana. With quality furniture made from the finest woods and amazing after-sale service, Fernart Ghana changed my story with every single home I built. It's a one-stop shop that serves the interests of clients with a variety of living room and dining sets, solid wood kitchen installations, wardrobes, doors, cabinets, beds, pergolas, floor parquets, and many other wooden products that will last a lifetime. With Fernart Ghana, all clients are offered the opportunity to customize furniture to their specifications, and the smile on their faces says it all. Thanks to Fernart, now your home can look beautiful with furniture that would last for generations. Visit Fernart Ghana today and share my story. Locate us at Janiba Estate, Osu, Accra, or call 0303-966-085 or 055-278-4097. Think wood, think Fernart.
You're strong and you're tough. Syntax tank, syntax tank. Ladies and gentlemen, I beg you, check your tongue and get syntax. SINTEX. Where you're just over 25 years, we are made in Ghana water storage solution. You were green, you were blue, colors in there. They're great. That's it, your mom free water. We have over 400 agents nationwide. Just say Ghana Finance, baho. Find us on social media, Syntax Ghana. Not nominate here. Say Giovanni, Syntax, I need you in this community. And it's that simple. I will be there myself. Syntax Ghana page me. All right, so just like that, we're wrapping up inside Tessie. Syntax Tank! strong!
Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to demonstrate to you the superior properties of Flamingo paint as compared to other paint brands on the market. We take equal quantities of Flamingo paint and this ordinary paint. We then dilute them with water. And now, let the test begin. The gentleman on the left is going to apply the ordinary paint, and the gentleman on my right will use the Flamingo superior paint. As you can clearly see, Flamingo has the obvious better hiding. Furthermore, Flamingo has painted a much larger area. You know, one bucket of Flamingo paint is equal to several buckets of any other paint brand on the market. Flamingo paint is made with superior formulation to give superior durability, superior hiding, superior coverage. Flamingo paint, simply superior.
Hello, esteemed CEOs. Join us for the highly anticipated 9th Ghana CEO Summit and Expo on 26th May 2025 at Kempinski Hotel, Gold Coast, Accra from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. This biggest business leadership conference offers actionable insight and strategic opportunities for topmost CEOs and policymakers. This year's theme, leading Ghana's economic reset, transforming business and governance for a sustainable futuristic economy. We'll focus on transformational leadership to reset Ghana's economy through sustainability, digital innovation, and governance reforms. Be inspired by the special guest of honor, His Excellency President John Dramani Mahama. Key sessions include CEO presentations, master classes, keynote plenaries, the CEO Excellence Awards, and more. Register today at GhanaCEOSummit.com to secure your spot. For inquiries and sponsorship, contact 0546 391 970 or email info@GhanaCEOSummit.com. Powered by Ghana CEO Network in partnership with Deloitte, PwC, GIPC, SIGA, and Multimedia Group. Ghana CEO Summit. Be inspired.
You're welcome back. This is Newsfile, it's your most authoritative news analysis platform, and here on Newsfile we put Ghana first. And let me begin with Emmanuel Kofi-Boah, the Minister of Lands and Natural Resources, who is delivering the charge on the President's promise, or the NDC's promise, to fight Galamsey. Thank you very much for making time to join us. Great.
Joy Studio Newsfile.
Right. So let's start straight away. Pledge 19 of President Mahama's 120-day promise is this. He says, ban illegal and new mining activities in forest reserves, roll out our Tree for Life and Blue Water Initiative to heal and sustainably harness the environment by turning areas and water bodies degraded by illegal mining into economic and ecological recovery hubs. How far so far?
Well, we are not even 90 days yet. I can boldly say that we made a lot of progress on this promise. And so we really committing and making sure that this promise is fulfilled. I think you already know that we laid the LI, Minister for Environment, Science and Technology, taking the charge and laid this LI before Parliament. And within 21 days, God willing, it becomes law. That clearly, the President's power to authorize mining in forest reserve has been voluntarily given out. And to me, that is very, very important. The reason this is important is because, you know, the original proposal was that the LI should be completely banned. It should be completely revoked. But what we've done here is that if you look, and this was the case that was made by the Environment Committee and the EPA, the whole EPA's power to enter forest reserve, to supervise, to monitor that all the concessions we've already given to large-scale mining are being followed, hinges on this LI 2462. So what is really the problem now is that we must stop all these new licenses in forest reserve, but allow the EPA to continue to have the right to enter the forest to make sure that the right things are being done there. If we repeal this whole act, it means the EPA completely will have that no power. And that is why we are stopping new licenses in forest reserve and making sure that the EPA will hold the fort with all these large-scale mining companies that have lease. And I believe that once the lease is done, I don't believe we want to even extend any lease going forward from the direction we are going.
Your sincere assessment as you enter into that office, because it's been overwhelming for most ministers who have been there, and they end up really being said to have achieved nothing.
Well, I think that
in respect of the Galamsey fight.
Yes. I've been blessed to have held various positions This is one of the very big ones in my lifetime. And I wake up in the morning and I say, you know, when you work hard with all your heart and soul and say, help me, God, you don't worry. I think I'm very confident. And I see the support of the people of Ghana. The people of Ghana are overwhelming in their support that we must address this canker that is destroying our water bodies and our environment, that is making us look like we are living for just today. And so I think that we are on course.
From your assessment, how bad is it?
5 pillars are the focus areas that we are looking at. Number 1, we must basically completely reform the licensing regime. Look at all the areas in the licensing regime that has contributed to this mess. We must strengthen law enforcement. And this area requires political will and leadership. And I am very clear in my mind the support and the heart of President John Mahama. He has given me clear instructions that this fight, we must wave it with the people of Ghana, our forests, our water bodies, and our future. When the Water Resources Commission tells you that your water levels, treatment level of 500 is now between 5,000 and 12,000, and that no machine in Ghana is able to treat water, when they are shutting down, when the water company is shutting down water because you have crisis, when the Forestry Commission says that out of your 288 forests, 44 is completely destroyed, and that they have colors. 9 of the forests had red, yellow, and then blue. You know that this is a fight you must win. So that is critical. The other thing is engagement and education of the people of Ghana. If you have seen me in the last, that's the second part. Since I took office, my focus has been engaging the people of Ghana. I've been in parliament. I've been with traditional leaders. I've been with the media. I've been talking to the youth groups. Because this fight is not for the Minister of Lands or for the government. It's for the people of Ghana. It's for traditional authorities at all levels for us to accept that there are things that will be no-go area. There are things we can do, but there are things we must collectively say, this we can do. Not our water, not our forests. That gives us life.
That's the third pillar. You're left with 2 more.
Now we have alternative livelihood. If you see us focusing on things like Tree for Life initiative, and we've talked about a lot of programs we are going to do in that area. If you see us talking about all the other things, working with the other agencies, you see my collaboration with the Ministry of Agriculture. It's all about alternative livelihood and things we can do to empower the youth. The other thing has to be a strong focus on reclamation and revegetation of all these damaged lands. So these are the focus areas of our fight. I talk about the reforms. You know, one of the things we've done immediately I took office was to make sure that we scan the system. You see me set up committees to look at the system. Because what we are talking about is also important. This mining sector is a very important sector. This is a sector that is the small-scale mining sector. It's what has given the government of Ghana over $4.5 billion. It's holding this economy. And so you need to understand that it's a very important sector. How do we sanitize it to make sure that people who are doing the right thing are giving the support?
So people are interested in knowing what differently you are going to do, because reforming licensing regime, strengthening law enforcement, engagement and education, alternative livelihood, strong focus on reclamation and revegetation, they are not new.
But there's a lot of difference. You know the difference? The difference this time is leadership. The difference this time is to tell the military. You know, the last time the military went to the forest reserve was 2022, according to the reports we have. At some point, they had to stop. This time, the police, when you hear the Interior Minister publicly saying to the police service that, listen, if you are caught as a police officer in any compromised position with this fight of illegal mining, the new IGP just announced that fighting Galamsey is a priority. When you hear me, the minister,
saying that if anybody, any political person who comes in our way of this fight will be named and shamed, and that nobody should try to call me. The only person I want to call me to give me instruction in this fight is the President of the Republic.
The President has also said that he will discipline members
so
of his government.
Clear alignment.
But we have heard before, a president even put their presidency on the line.
We are within 3 months, and I think that the people of Ghana are watching exactly the steps we are taking. And I think we are being consistent. When I saw the report, and it says, for the last 5 years, we arrested 845 Galamseyers, but only 35 were prosecuted. I was like, yeah, this number. No, one of the engagements that has been done, for example, in this area, I've gone to the Chief Justice, I've gone to the Attorney General, and I've asked them, can you explore the possibility of fast-track courts, specifically for offenders of Galamsey and small-scale money? And they've been very receptive. I think we are pushing in all these directions.
They've already dedicated courts to deal with Galamsey issues.
Well, in some of the areas that I see, I think that we need to strengthen it more, maybe spread it more. That's the point I'm making. And so I'm saying to you, I've shown you these 5 pillars. A lot is in there. You saw the announcement we've made about the review of licenses. We didn't do that by accident. It was done based on work by a committee that says that, listen, there's a lot of problems with authorization and validation of these licenses. There are people who even have small-scale mining licenses that, frankly, are violating environmental provisions. Their work programs that have been given them, they are not following.
Literally doing Galamsey.
Basically, they are mining wrongly. We've given you B area, and you are mining in B, C, D. They have not even come back to renew their licenses. Foreigners are not supposed to be in small-scale mining. But guess what is happening? If you go to all of these people who have licenses, they bring all these foreigners, and I'm not going to specify nationalities, and say, oh, they are here because they are coming to fix our machines. No, they are not there to fix their machine. They are the one leading the fight. And so
the 55 licenses you have revoked.
Yes.
You are saying that it is because these license holders have breached various portions of the requirements.
Clearly, if you saw what we did, the time period, you know, the reason why there was a Transition Act was exactly this point. That when we have finished the election and we are just transitioning to a new government, when everybody is focused on handover notes and all of that, and we are saddled with a problem as big as Galamsey, that is not the window where you jam more licenses on. And that is why you realize that in that short period, all those licenses that were given were rushed. Some of the processes were not completed. Due diligence were not done. Some of the authorization, somebody got a Mincom license, he doesn't have EPA license. There was a whole lot of problems. What we have said is that we are still going to be fair. And that's why we took our time. For all those people, they still can apply, and we'll give them the opportunity to go through the process. But we have to really do a complete review and make sure there are genuine people who are doing their work. They will come and vis-a-vis the groundwork, the field work, and we'll say, go ahead. There are people who will come and will say that we need to strengthen your environmental license. You have not renewed in the last 5 years. If we do not sanitize this system and we keep fighting, you will see that we are not going anywhere. So it must be comprehensive.
Are you sure this 55, some of it was not an ongoing process that you have truncated in the manner you have done, and you don't expect that you'll be saddled with some legal, battles?
Well, we are very clear now. I'm the minister that has the power to approve these licenses. And I also have the authority to revoke these licenses. And I'm doing that in the interest of the Republic. And I'm saying that people who feel that they need to come back to apply for these new licenses, they should do so. But the thousands of licenses, we did not, for example, want to truncate a small-scale mining that has employed people that is doing genuine work. That's why I say, even in the course of your work, let's review and audit your licenses. Let's audit and make sure that you are right on course. Robert, those people will come and it will take 10
The people who process these licenses to eventual issuance, they are the same people at the helm.
This is the
and the Minerals Commission and elsewhere, correct?
The committee, and it's a one-stop shop, and this is the good news. This committee is going to be a one-stop. You are the minister of the EPA, the Minerals Commission, the Water Resource Commission, the ministry itself is being chaired by my able deputy minister. We have brought representatives from the Chamber of Mines, representatives from the small-scale mining organization as part of this committee to ensure fairness and to ensure transparency. This is not intended to penalize anybody, but it's intended as part of our efforts to sanitize, to make sure that we are all clear in our minds that the mess that is happening. For example, let me tell you, how come we will just sit in Elembele and one morning get somebody just show up with his licenses and say that I'm here to do prospecting, I have my prospecting license. What engagement did he do with the community there? This part of reform also involves what we are going to do, and it's part of the recommendation I have. The licensing regime must begin at the district level, and that's why we are saying that we are going to create district community licenses committees made up of the DISEC, which is really the key.
These don't already exist?
No, well, no.
No, I thought there was already a process at the local level where those who acquire licenses must engage before.
Well, they get the license here, and you're supposed to go to the DCE, who then has to now take you to the community.
Correct.
It doesn't happen. It never
so it
happens.
exists, but it doesn't happen.
It doesn't happen. But I'm changing that. What we are talking is different from this. What we are saying is that those people in Accra headquarters do not have to do anything. Now, you have an application, take it to the district. That DISEC will be made up of rep from the MINCOM at the district level with the water resource and the EPA at the district level. And guess what? We are also not going to let you be jumping around. You get that authorization, and then all we are doing here, based on the due diligence that has been done there, the engagement, the traditional authorities are going to be part of that committee. They've agreed that this area you want to mine, we don't have any problem. Guess what? We are now going to hold the DC and his team there responsible if there's mess. At this point, it's not like that everybody's looking at Accra. It's not possible. So all these reforms are.
You don't think that approach rather opens the floodgates? So at the local level, you know, people can get into all sorts.
I think you'll be listening to the president's announcement very soon. A DCE KPI, one of the top ones, will be how best he handles and controls his territory when it comes to small Galamsey.
Okay.
You will listen to the president.
Right.
So I think that these plans are things we're going to, but we are dealing with human beings. We are saying that we need everybody on board.
You have employed river guards.
Yes.
The question that is being asked is that these are people who are not armed, who, unlike the army or the police, they really can't do anything.
I saw a cartoon.
Is it job for the boys?
Not at all. So this river guard concept, and this is a very well thought out program. It is a program that is being shepherded by the Ghana Navy. The Ghana Navy is going to be helping. Their training is being undertaken by the Navy at some of their bases. That's where the Ghana Navy's plan is to have 12 riverine bases across the county. One in Ashanti, Eastern, Western, North, and Western. The reason is because the Navy can't spread themselves thin around all these river areas. The whole focus is to train these guys to be in a position to monitor and to collaborate with the Navy. They're supervisors.
So what are they going to be doing?
They will be the ears and the first responders.
Spies.
More or less. Of this. So that rapid response by the Navy in all these bases will take place.
They are not going to be involved in attempting to arrest or anything like that?
They don't have that power.
Okay.
In their training, we told them they are not soldiers. But they are more like security officers. They are first responders. And guess what? They are also being groomed from where the river bodies are polluted.
The communities.
And they come from the community. Every morning they are dealing with all these young people who are engaging in the wrong thing. This psychological idea that our friends are protecting the river bodies, and they have the capacity to make sure the Navy is here in 2 minutes when things happen. It's critical. These are all part of it.
Have you dealt with the possibility of compromise of these people as well? Because even if the army, the security, we are told, get compromised when they get to these places, how much more people that may not earn so much?
Now, everything you said is true. But what we are doing is better than just not trying them. I think that, my first post when I was launching, I said we are launching this in the spirit of the young pioneer. The training involves conscientizing our young people that this is an opportunity of a lifetime to lead an effort that is more than yourself in your community. You are going to be the guys. We still talk about the young pioneer, and do you know why? These guys had no arms. They were young people who were made to believe that their country and the calling to protect our river bodies. Yesterday we launched the Tree for Life, and I listened to a poem by this young lady. I almost teared up. And when you finish listening, you will say that, this is what every young person growing up must understand. Okay. If our young people believe that what they are doing is so important, so
how many of these guards are you looking to deploy into the system?
We have said we are targeting 2,000. We are looking for support. We already have the budget for 1,000.
And you have how many so far?
400 plus.
400.
Yes.
And you're looking at 2,000.
Yes.
When do you intend to finish that, deployment?
The Navy has a plan, and they are working with us on it. Every training is about 1 month. So they will finish the first 1 month, we'll deploy them, then they will go to the second phase. But I think that it may end up to be one of the very important things.
And this trees project too, what is that about?
So, yesterday was the Global Day for the forest, and we are very happy that the president stopped everything he was doing to join us plant trees. Trees are everything. What the water we drink, the air we breathe, everything is about trees. 60% of our forest is already gone. 60%. I just told you that 44 of our forests, everything we are doing, and people listen.
Since we are planting forest and
let me say
allowing for licenses to be mined in the forest, then what's the purpose for it? The previous government was already doing.
But that's why we keep planting. Let me say something important. So, the first report, I went to Parliament and I said, guys, we're in crisis. Can you believe that 44 of our forests is out of 288 is already destroyed? 9 of them is in red, no go areas. So I blew the alarm. Initially, I was getting this kickback. Why is the minister throwing his hand telling us? I needed to tell you before we all join hands to fight it. We got the military to work with us. Today, we are proud to say that these 9 forests, 7 have moved from red to yellow. What that means is that it doesn't mean that these bad guys are not still making incursions. What it means is that the Forestry Commission armed people are now able to handle those without the military. That's what we are saying. We've moved them from red to yellow. But what it means is that we must constantly keep an eye because...
So you arrested the people who were doing the wrong in these areas?
That's correct.
They are being prosecuted?
They are being prosecuted, and I think that I have the assurance of the Attorney General that they are not keeping their eye on the ball. In fact, probably not to say it here, but I think that we must get to the point where we are publicly deporting every foreign national who is caught in this, lining them out and deporting them.
About the LI 2462.
Yes.
Why are you choosing the approach to amend? In October 2024, you all joined organized labor and the Galamsey coalitions all over the place, anti-Galamsey coalitions all over the place, to call for the revocation of that process. And on the 10th of October 2024, there was this document under the hand of Godfred Yeboah Dame, the Attorney General then. I read it to you. It's titled Environmental Protection Mining in Forest Reserve Revocation Instrument 2024. And it says that please find attached a copy of the Environmental Protection Mining in Forest Reserve Revocation Instrument 2024, which has been dated and signed by the Minister responsible for Environment. Kindly arrange for the instrument to be laid in Parliament in accordance with Clause 7 of Article 11 of the 1992 Constitution. And you supported this. So why, I mean, you, the NDC, supported this. Why this new, approach of amendment, which the people who called for the revocation say is not the way to go?
The whole support was to stop new licenses. Listen, you've already given big mining companies leases in forest reserve. And you already know these big players. The world's #1 mining company is right in Ghana's forest reserve. I mean, think about it. They've invested billions of dollars. I mean, you are going to pass a law to all of a sudden overnight to say that all your investment, forget it. We are simply saying this, that when you look at the law, all the function, and I was the deputy minority leader at the time. We came to Parliament and was clear to the EPA and the Environment Committee that, and look at the day that this was brought. It was brought at a time where, frankly, and I'm trying not to go into that political, the government was basically at a point where their back was in the corner, they were in trouble, and they politically wanted to do something. But when they came to Parliament, it became very clear that this amendment must really protect the EPA's authority to still continue this very important work in this forest reserve. So what we are all talking about, and this is what we all agreed, is that there should be no new mining in forest, and that we should take the president's power to authorize leases in forest reserve. And says that's exactly what. And I think that unanimously, that's what we all agreed. The reason why it's been laid is that everybody agrees that that's what the problem is. And that's what we are doing. So I don't think... We have
heard from Abu Jinapo in the House, for example, suggests that this is not what to do. What to do is to...
You should have asked me, are you saying that we should now prevent the EPA from entering for... the day we take the EPA power, it means that they will not have the power to enter forest reserve to even do the important environmental supervision.
Let me bring Awula Sewa, who is coordinator of the Eco-Conscious Citizens. They are part of a number of groups that have actually brought a memorandum to the Subsidiary Legislation Committee of Parliament. They, together with Erocha Ghana Coalition Against Galamsey, Nature and Development Foundation, the CASA Institute Ghana, the Braze, the Civic Response, and Trepon Boss Ghana. Aula, thank you very much for your time. Listening to the minister who is leading this charge, are you convinced that something different will happen? Where the president put his presidency on the line, and this is where we are. It got worse.
Good morning, and thank you for having me. I believe the minister means well, but then I have to say in very clear terms that we are greatly disappointed. When His Excellency, the President, was in opposition, he clearly said that he would revoke LI 2462. What the minister is telling us was known to the president at the time. He knew that certain companies had made investment, but he took into consideration the greater good of Ghanaians, our forest reserve being destroyed. And we all talked about water is life and the importance of forests that have been there for decades because our ancestors were not as wicked as we are to destroy the forest reserves. And he said he would revoke. And now we see something else happening, an amendment. This is reminiscent of somebody saying he'll put his presidency on the line, and then things go from bad to worse.
Tell us what difference it makes. The amendment and the revocation. What difference does it make? I've seen your memorandum, your 10-page memorandum speaking to that issue, but quickly help us appreciate that.
It's very very, very quickly, what a revocation means is that you take away the whole thing. You don't retain any part of it. As it stands right now, LI 2462 still allows mining in forest reserves. LI 2462 has removed some of the protections. Under the old law, at least in production forest reserves, you could not mine on more than 2%. So what we are doing right now with LI 2462, we've even taken away that protection, and you can mine almost unfettered access. So this is a very bad law, and it was able to be passed because there was no proper consultation. It was clandestinely done.
He's saying that it is this LI that gives the environmental officers the power to do the work they do to assist to prevent Galamsey in the place. So if you do an entire revocation, you have taken the power away from them. That's what he's saying.
That is not the case. I believe we are being misled by whoever is advising the president. That is not the case. You have laws in force already. The duty of the Forestry Commission is to protect our forests.
They can't go to forest reserve.
They try to take all steps.
Forest and emit.
The LI 2462 is not what gives protection to our forests. In fact, it was perversely named Protection of Forest Reserve. What it's really doing is destroying our forest reserves. The EPA have the mandate irrespective of LI 2462. So let's not deceive ourselves that by removing LI 2462, we've removed the power of the EPA. That is absolutely not the case. Absolutely not the case. What we are rather doing for most people is that it's slightly disingenuous. You have agreed to remove the whole law completely.
Let me come in.
You have passed a law that completely bans mining in forest reserve, but with full consultation and discussion. Organizations like AROCHA are excellent civil society organizations. They've been there for a very long time. They are very much into conservation. You cannot do something like that, excluding them from discussions. So let's be absolutely clear. The president had all the information when he said he will revoke. He knows the difference between revoking and amending. We want the whole law, which is perverse, to be done away with so that we no longer have a law that's allowing damage to our forest reserve. And let me add this. Yesterday, we're planting trees. Fantastic. What's the point of planting trees? That when your forest reserves, where the forests have been there for decades, you are happily supervising their destruction. What would be the point? We still have EI 144, which declassifies parts of Achimota Forest. That's the last remaining forest reserve in Accra. So it's like, one step forward and maybe 5 steps back. Let's do what we said we'll do so that you can restore confidence.
Right. The minister will respond to your concern quickly, but Minister, hold on for me. Dr. Arthur Kennedy, thank you very much for joining us also. What do you say? Listening to the minister, do you get the confidence that something different is going to happen? At least since they assumed office, they have deployed the military, they have gone into these places, they have seized hordes of excavators and chamfan machines. Does it look like I have seen this before to you, or it means more than that?
Yeah, good morning, Samson, to you and to the minister and all those who are watching us. I am hopeful but skeptical, and I think Awula makes excellent points. It is interesting. The analogy I would use, since there was a fire in Kumasi yesterday, is that our house is on fire, and the minister is effectively saying, don't start new fires. But we already say that the level of burning is a crisis. It sounds like we should be quenching the fires. So respectfully to the minister, I think he and the president means well. But I think we should follow what Awula suggests, that maybe we should revoke the LI and then have Parliament properly go through hearings in which it will consult the necessary experts and then put in place a new regime. But whatever the new regime is, I think there must be substantial reduction in the illegal, because otherwise the destruction of the forest will proceed apace. I was going to ask the minister whether those who issued the revoked licenses, because the revocation suggests that there was something improper, would face accountability. That would be my first question. And I also think that maybe this requires a bipartisan approach, I'm sure he and the president means well, but my firm conviction is that this cannot be done effectively without a bipartisan approach, which is what maybe bringing in Parliament and bringing in the stakeholders will bring. So I want him to elaborate on how we're making this bipartisan so that with the approach of the next election, all of a sudden people won't panic and abandon all the nice ideas he's suggesting. And my third point would be, so if we are having this discussion in a year, what are the measurables that he will be expecting so he can declare success?
Great.
But I'm skeptical, and I think Awula makes excellent points.
Okay, thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, hold on briefly. I'll return to you. Yes.
Thank you very much. I think that they make very, very important point. But I still go back to the earlier point I make. The Forestry Commission, anybody who wants to enter that forest will need a forestry permit. This LI allows the EPA to enter this forest without the Forestry Commission's permit, to inspect, to do their work. So that in the discussion, the question came up, if you revoke this whole LI, what happens to the power of the EPA to enter this forest? Then they will be at the mercy of the Forestry Commission, who will now say, okay, well, we decide. So this discussion took place. But we realized that the most important point is that we can allow, just imagine how many licenses were issued in forest reserves. Even in the face of when we were talking about the crisis. And so that, we said, listen, anytime you are passing a law, just remember that not everybody will come and his name will be a good lawyer who will be very diligent. Somebody will come and just, so make sure that we take this power completely. And the president says, please take my power away, my power to authorize mining forest reserve. And then allow the EPA to do this work. I think that these points that have been made can be taken on board, but we need to do this first. This is critical. We need to do this first. I am sure if there has to be earlier discussions about packaging the EPA rule and bringing in a new law that says that this is not the EPA's power, and then maybe in that process, that's a discussion that can be had later. But immediately, this LI, the most critical point in it is to stop awarding, allowing anybody, authorizing anybody that they have the power to give anybody licenses in forest reserve. We must stop it. We have done some mistakes in the past. I'll put it this way. In hindsight, really, one of the reasons why, for the longest time, I never heard anything about mining forest reserve until the big players entered there. And Ghanaians were like, so why are these people there? Then we too can go there.
But that law only came in 2022, November.
Well, I'm saying to you, this one.
The law you are seeking to amend or...
But that's what we are taking off.
Yes.
No,
that's the power that was given to the president on the basis of what the law called national interest to allow people to enter the forest and mine.
How did we get the few mining companies to have concessions in forest reserve in the 90s? We did. That's the point I'm making. Okay. I'm talking about that. I'm saying that we opened that in the 90s to allow mining forests. So I think, and then we are seeing the consequence. That's why we are stopping it.
Right.
If there has to be a discussion on how we allow EPA to work, we can't stop their work right now because their work.
Okay, that's the point you have made. So hold on.
But the important, he also made some point that I was trying to. I think he asked whether those whose lines are revoked will face some penalty. I think that it will all be part of the review.
Right. But substantively, Dr. Atta Kennedy is asking, how are we going to measure what you have achieved in time, all the things you're talking about? Hold on for me. So once again, the question is, the campaign that you, civil society, and particularly these earth-conscious organizations, green-conscious organizations waged, it was to remove the power that had been given to the president in 2022 for people to be able to mine in forest reserve. This process is going to remove exactly that. It's going to do exactly that, remove that power. So what changed?
I think, you see, there have been a lot, with respect, there are lots of red herrings. And the discussions that were being had were part of the red herrings. Let's be very clear. Section 3.1 of the perverse LI 2462 allowed the president, by giving written consent, to permit mining in globally significant biodiversity areas. The whole of our forests are not globally significant biodiversity area. So what has been done is to remove that power. But that doesn't mean that it's stopping mining in forest reserve. Let's be very clear. It's only removed the power of the president to allow mining in globally significant biodiversity area. The rest of the forest, you're giving virtually unfettered access for mining, and that is completely wrong.
I will humbly submit that with the repeal of this law, anybody,
you're not repealing it, you're amending a portion.
With the amendment of this LI, anybody who enters a forest reserve is an illegal miner and must be dealt with.
Respect.
Who is giving them the authorization to enter any forest reserve? Who is giving them the authorization? No institution in Ghana after the amendment will have the power to do exactly that. No institution. But what we are saying is that if we repeal this whole 2462, it will be caught up, and the environmental agencies that are doing the very important work that you cherish will now not have any power to enter any forest reserve, to do any environmental assessment.
Unless they have permission.
Permission from the Forestry Commission. Unless they have permission from the Forestry Commission. So let's have a post-amendment discussion on the way forward on this matter.
With the greatest respect, Honorable Minister, with the greatest respect, I believe you mean well, but I believe you are being misled. First of all, let's be absolutely clear. It's the mandate of the Forestry Commission to protect our forests. And it is absolutely not the case, that when you revoke LI 2462, then the EPA cannot go there. Let's be clear. I like the analogy that Dr. Kennedy gave. Our house is burning. We need to put out the fire. We need to ensure that this perverse piece of legislation goes, because all that you have done is to remove the part about globally significant biodiversity areas. The rest of the forest licenses can still be granted as we speak. So what we are saying is that revoke the law, revoke it, and then we can sit down with proper consultation, having the right people at the table to see how we can pass another law. But we need to stop mining in forest reserve. And I find it very interesting that we are talking about the investment that some companies, I think 4 billion, have made in mining in forest reserves. Compare that 4 billion to the health of Ghanaians. Compare that 4 billion to how much it's going to take to reclaim.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Now, Dr. Atta Kennedy's questioning about in the next how many weeks, how many months, what are the targets you are setting? How are we going to hold you to account? How are you going to, as it were, how are we going to measure what you do?
I laid out the
5 pillars.
5 pillars. I think we should be assessed in these areas. How well are we working with law enforcement to make sure that we clear these illegal activities in forest reserve? How are we prosecuting them?
Number one is reforming license regime.
Yes. How is the licensing? For example, our focus is decentralizing and empowering local communities.
When is that going to be in effect? For now, you haven't done anything. All you have done is to seek to revoke licenses and to amend. Of course, that's an important step, to amend LI 2462.
So I am less than 60 days in office, and I am saying that we've done some work to the extent that we are able to now focus on, for example, the community mining schemes. It was clear that the communities, and we visited all these mining communities. Every community is saying that, they say this community mining, they find one person in our community that was part of that community mining.
So When are you hoping to achieve what?
We are finishing this review, and then we are, as soon as the DCs are in place, we are sending a policy that will be approved by cabinet, and then this whole decentralized mining committees will be in place.
Yes, and the second leg, law enforcement.
The law enforcement is already.
When would you have cleared everyone who is involved in the illegality away?
I think that we are already on course. I'm very proud of the collaboration that the Minister of Defense and the Interior and the support we are getting, the collaboration with the Forestry Commission. I'm very proud of the support we are getting from the President and National Security. And I believe that we are determined. One of the things we are not doing, the only reason why we came to Parliament and gave it, because I was asked a question. And in Parliament, you have to go and disclose this. I think that we want to make sure we do the hard work.
Okay.
And let the people of Ghana make the judgment for them.
Right. The excavators you have been concerned about that you are arresting now with the chamfans and the things.
That's another big angle.
So far, in total, about how many have you immobilized?
I think the number was around 55 or so.
Right.
But more importantly, let me say something about excavators. Yeah, I put out a number there. 6.2 billion Ghana cedi worth of the value. That's the third highest in terms of value of things we imported. We need. Already, we are working with the MINCOM and Minerals Commission on the tracking of excavators.
The law is already there, allowing for tracking, allowing for charging, and they've been charging for the tracking. But these excavators find themselves there. They are not charged. They are not tracked. They are not monitored.
We want to expand it. There are proposals on the table. I've had a first discussion with the Minister of Transport because we believe that other agencies must be part of this whole exercise, starting from the port, working with DVLA and others. And this discussion is early. But we need a comprehensive plan. So far, those we have arrested, we have all their...
Are you going to stop the importation of these excavators?
But we must make sure that any excavator imported in the country is tracked, has a purpose, and we know exactly where they are 24 hours a day. Those are things we have to do.
The second highest thing we import into this country?
Yes.
Excavators.
Yes. 6.2 billion.
In terms of the value?
That's correct. That's correct.
And your assessment is that a majority of that goes into Galamsey work?
That's correct. That's correct. And so, as for champagne, they shouldn't even be here. What's the business of champagne?
The small boys and girls around those pits. So, when you arrest them, are you not able to use these to get to the owners?
Well, for example, those that, and remember, it's a country, a democratic country. Those who have arrested are going through courts, the prosecution. Some of the items seized will be part of evidence. And so once all of this is done and the state is won the cases, obviously the intention is to put them in a very good use.
Right. The law says when you seize them, you put them in the custody of the police nearest the place, and after the court process, you distribute to state institutions that won them. And then you publish in the National Gazette how you did the distribution so we can all track.
That's exactly what
so that the distribution doesn't go to certain people.
They won't fly, yes. That's exactly what we will do.
Interesting. We wish you the very best.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time. The Honorable
let me say my last word. The people of Ghana must all join hands. Yes, all of the things we are seeking, people have questions. But I think that we need the people of Ghana to give us a chance. Our intention is very clear. This is wrong. We must all fight it together.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Emmanuel Amakufibwa is the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, and he's taking the charge to do this. So there you have it. We'll take a quick break. When we return, Dr. Atta Kennedy is still with us. We are going to have the next discussion. Don't go anywhere. This is Newsfile, brought to you by the candid sponsorship of Bank of Africa, strong as a group and close as a partner, MTN everywhere you go, Ashesi University, educating ethical and entrepreneurial leaders for Africa. Robert & Sons Optical Services, your comprehensive eye care service provider for 33 plus years. My Way Insurance, dial star 165# on MTN to join my way today. DBS Industries, that's roofing, Papa Fie, Flamingo, Paint, Simply Superior, Syntex Tanks, is strongest stuff, Activa International Insurance. Our clients are passion. We'll be right back.
You're strong and you're tough. Syntex tank, Syntex tank. Ladies and gentlemen, I beg you, check your tank and get Syntex. SINTEX. Wait, you're just over 25 years. We are made in Ghana water storage solution. You were green, you were blue, colors in here. They're great. That's it, your baha, your mom free water. We have over 400 agents nationwide. Just say Ghana Finance, yeah, baho. Find us on social media, Syntex Ghana. Not nominate here. Say Giovanni, Syntex, I need you in this community. And it's that simple. I will be there myself. Syntex Ghana page me. All right, so just like that, we're wrapping up inside Tessie. Syntex tank! Hey, strong! Hey, strong!
For decades, we have helped businesses connect with their trade partners all over the globe. From Ghana to Burkina Faso, Côte d'Ivoire, Benin, Togo, Senegal, China, Morocco, France, Netherlands, and many other countries. We have made it possible to bring Ghana to the world. We have brought small and medium businesses closer to their customers across the regions in Ghana with our SME support facilities. We have brought relief and smiles to the faces of families with our employee personal loans. With our cutting-edge technology and digital support, we take the burden of complex thinking off you, making life simple. That is who we are, as close as a partner. Bank of Africa. We are indeed the African bank with the global reach.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to demonstrate to you the superior properties of Flamingo paint as compared to other paint brands on the market. We take equal quantities of Flamingo paint and this ordinary paint. We then dilute them with water. And now, let the test begin. The gentleman on the left is going to apply the ordinary paint, and the gentleman on my right will use the Flamingo superior paint. As you can clearly see, Flamingo has the obvious better hiding. Furthermore, Flamingo has painted a much larger area. You know, one bucket of Flamingo paint is equal to several buckets of any other paint brand on the market. Flamingo paint is made with superior formulation to give superior durability, superior hiding, superior coverage. Flamingo paint, simply superior.
Number 1 from here, 2 and 3 from here, 5 and 6 from here, for now. Yay. Now, I have the number 7, 8, and the number 9.
You need number 10.
Please, I can't eat anymore.
I mean, number 10, liver salt.
The effective liver salt for the relief of stomach upset, heartburn, hyperacidity, and indigestion.
Would you like to try number 11?
What?
Number 10 liver salt. Refreshing relief fast. Manufactured and distributed by Ernest Chemists Limited. This advert is FDA approved.
Slam. Set your style anywhere in the world by breaking all the rules. Shout with all your soul and sparkle with 1,000 blaze. Pick a color what suits you best and launch the slam movement, yeah. Be someone who lets up as his spell, who dares to get a hold of the here and now with no fears and make our way till tomorrow. Join me, let's do this with the slam. Peace and quiet.
Here's Kwame and Yao. After hours of planning, both have locked in the same perfect multi-bet. Big win for United, over 1.5. And both teams to score in the London Derby. But who could have picked Leicester over City? Or a high-scoring game at the Bridge? There's nothing worse than having your perfect multi-bet missing. But there's nothing better than having it saved. Bet Saver. Win, even if your bet misses.
Welcome back. This Newsfile is your most authoritative news analysis platform, and here on Newsfile we put Ghana First. Adreno Great says licenses should not just be given out just like that, and inspection on the site must be done after these miners complete their work. This will help the country to know the mining companies which are not doing the right thing. Tadia Kofi says, so the president didn't know then that revoking or repealing the mining in forest reserve will affect EPA. When they took that stance, they should give us a break. Frimpong 30 says that the lands minister keeps saying they have retrieved 7 forests which were captured by Galamseyers out of the 9 forest reserve captured by Galamseyers. The big question is the minister has not given names of the 7 forest reserves they have retrieved. Excellence Rain says, what are some of the strong measures the government is putting in place to make sure that illegal miners don't go back to the wrong thing again? And how are they going to make sure the forest reserves are all well secured? Well, he's telling us about all of that. Let's hope that what is being promised actually works. Prince Henry OFORI-ATTA says that the NDC government led by President John Mahama has clearly shown that it will fight Galamsey very well. Looking at the steps the government has taken so far. You don't remember the steps that Akufo-Addo took, eh? That was lethal at the beginning, but we saw the end. It was worse. Ghanaians should give this government all the necessary support to fight Galamsey to benefit all, but not a few. President Mahama will not rush to put his presidency on the fight against Galamsey, but I know that when we support him, he will give us the Ghana we want by fighting Galamsey and corruption very well. Okay, you are giving us assurances. Thank you very much for your assurances. Musa Batwa, as Wasi says, I'm very impressed with how the conversation on legal mining is being handled so far. This approach is thoughtful and free of partisan rhetoric, which makes the discussion much more productive. I particularly appreciate Honorable Ama Boa's analysis of the issues. It's clear, insightful, and focused on real solutions. President Mahama has shown real commitment to tackling the Galamsey menace, and it's encouraging to see a focus on practical, actionable steps. Let's keep the momentum. Thanks for that. Thanks for that. Now, let me get on. This is Piquet from Elembele, and he says that this new decision will go a long way. That is the revocation of the license, revocation of the LI 2462. They are not revoking it. They are amending one portion of it, taking away the president's power to give licenses to people to go into those biodiversity reserves to mine. He says this will go a long way to protect the forest reserves and water bodies in Ghana for a long time, for far too long. As a result of lack of strong political will, we have lost this Galamsey fight to unscrupulous Ghanaians and foreigners in their quest to degrade our forest reserves and destroy our water bodies. This new decision by the Lands Minister and the government will go a long way to ensure a collaborative effort to fight Galamsey in Ghana. Okay, thanks for those messages. Now, let's get to speak to our other guests who are joining us. Alfred Chiayeboa is former Deputy Attorney General, former Deputy Minister of Justice. Alfred, thanks very much for making time to join us.
Thank you very much, Samson.
Great.
Good morning.
Right. Good to have you. Good to have you. Frank Anderson Jr. says those who fraudulently acquired mining licenses must be banned for 10 years. And those officers who connive to undermine the process, dismissed. That's how you fight. You set the tone. Okay, so those whose licenses have been seized, that's how you deal with them. Thank you. Now, like I said, let's get to this. And I will begin on this note, and I guess will stay with us for the rest of the issues that we are looking at. I'll begin on this tone. Evans Selassie Adeka. He's a member of the legal team of Anas Aramea Anas in New Jersey in America. Thanks for joining us, Evans.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Right. So, Evans, quickly help us. Just lay down a little bit of some perspective so that our guests can join, so we can deal with this quickly and go to our next matter. So, when did you sue in New Jersey, and how long has it taken to get to the jury's verdicts last week or this week?
Thank you. We first filed suit on May 17th, 2022. Once we filed suit, the case was put on a track, a discovery track. After the filing of a complaint, we expect the procedures for the defendant upon service to file his answer within the required time, after which the discovery period opens. So we perfected service, I believe, sometime in the summer of 2022, and that opened the discovery period. However, the defendant in this case, the Honorable Kennedy Agyapong, did not file an answer to the complaint. So the case went into default, and I believe sometime in 2023, we attempted to obtain judgment by default, at which point he retained counsel and filed a motion to reopen default. That process took about 6 months to get over. We consented at a point to the reopening of default, and he filed his answer subsequently. We had to wait for the discovery period to elapse. I believe this case was on a 180-day discovery period track. So we attempted to conduct discovery. We faced several challenges. The Honorable Kennedy Agyapong was generally uncooperative. We don't know if he didn't know about the case or there was some type of miscommunication between himself and counsel. So we proceeded to transcribe the video that is the subject of this civil litigation, and proceeded on to, after he filed his answer, he then followed up with a motion for summary judgment. We also filed a cross motion for summary judgment that took some time to be resolved by the court. And then we started heading towards trial.
People have been trying to understand something, that both are Ghanaian nationals. How come it is a court in the United States that is dealing with their case?
So when I first, when Anas Aramea Anas first sent me the video of that is the subject of this this litigation, we took a look at the contents, and we ran it through a system that we have that ensures that we don't file frivolous cases. And we determined that based on his own assertions and some other research or investigative work that we did, that there was jurisdiction over the Honorable Kennedy Agyapong. in Essex County, New Jersey, on account of his ownership of property there that he admitted to in the audiovisual recording that is the subject of this litigation. Then we so for those who understand what I'm talking about, that gives us basically a general jurisdiction over him for all claims in that jurisdiction. Then we also our research also supported the exercise of jurisdiction in terms of the conduct, the specific conduct that is the subject of this litigation, because once again he admits on the audiovisual recording that he is seated in his house in New Jersey, in West Orange, New Jersey. So that is the jurisdictional basis for bringing suit in Essex County, New Jersey.
So the comments were the interview he had with the second defendant was in New Jersey. He has a property in New Jersey. He was conducting the interview in that property. And therefore, it was easy for the defendant to sue there. That's the point.
Yes. And there's been they haven't objected to jurisdiction. So that has never been an issue in this case.
Jurisdiction was not objected to at all?
No, there was no objection to jurisdiction in this case. They made mention of it in passing in terms of,
in your system, we know that like here in Ghana, if you file a commercial suit, there is a mandatory settlement attempt. If it fails before it goes on litigation on a trial, we know that in your system, that applies to cases like this. Did you attempt to settle the case?
Yes, there were overtures made pre-trial, and then on Monday, I believe March the 9th, 2025, the first day of that we were scheduled for trial, we attended a mandatory settlement mediation conference in Essex County, New Jersey.
What was the outcome of that? Obviously, it failed. That is why it went to trial with the jury. But how did it fail?
We were just too far apart in terms of what we wanted out of the settlement conference and what the Honorable Kennedy Agyapong wanted out of the settlement conference. So essentially, negotiations fell apart, and we proceeded on to the courtroom. And
what did you want? What did you want, and what did he want?
Well, our complaint was we asked for damages in the form of compensatory and punitive damages to the tune of 30 million United States dollars. He made and then we decided to compromise for a little bit over half of that amount, but he was just too far from settling this case.
He was willing but too far. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, he was willing, but too far.
What was he offering?
I think it's in the media. He offered us $10,000.
$10,000?
Yes.
Okay. So what did the mediator or arbitrator have to say?
Well, at that point, we were too far apart. So, the case just had to go into the courtroom for trial.
Okay. Okay. So now quickly, we are at the point of the trial. The jury's verdict, it was unanimous, as you say.
Yes. For every question that was posed on the verdict form, the jury returned a verdict in our favor, unanimously 8-0.
Okay, a unanimous verdict 8-0. That Ken had done what against Anas?
Well, there were several questions on the jury verdict form. Chief among them is the question of whether the Honorable Kennedy Agyapong had defamed our client, Anas Aremeyao Anas, and the jury answered that question affirmatively by a vote of 8-0. There were also several questions that, honestly, I can't specifically recall at this moment, but the most important is that the Honorable Kennedy Agyapong was found liable by the jury by a vote of 8-0.
Okay. So I've looked at the sheet, and there were the counts included that the plaintiff that he had made allegations in setting nature. So count 1, count 2, count 3, count 4, and 5. So on all 5 counts, the jury held that he was guilty.
I believe one count did not reach the jury, but on all the other counts, he was found liable to have defamed Anas Aremiao Anas.
Yes. As we understand, he was relying on the judgment of the court in Ghana that the court had found, as a matter of fact, when Anas sued in Ghana, that Anas was a tax evader, he was a murderer, and so on and so forth. And so he didn't say anything wrong.
Well, that's true, but it's not entirely accurate, because he relied on, first of all, those statements that the court made, which we believe are obiter dicta and are out of place, respectfully, occurred after the statements that he made. And the legal test in this case is whether or not at the time he made the statements, he had evidence that made the statements true. In this case, the answer was negative.
Right. Tell us, is this case over?
Well, the trial is over. I can say that. I can say that much. The judge at the end of the trial read the jury's verdict. There was a little complication where the jury sent a note explaining their verdict, which gave rise to certain assertions by opposing counsel. But the trial's over. The judge has now instructed that anyone who has a post-trial motion should do so according to the rules. So that's where we are right now. We've submitted a proposed judgment for the judge's signature.
Explain that. Has Anas, in fact, won a verdict for $18 million or not?
Yes, he has.
Is that verdict under appeal or question?
It is not on appeal because it hasn't been reduced to a written judgment yet. Like I said, opposing counsel made, I think, thus far he's made two applications after the verdict. The first was an application for remediature that was made immediately after the jury's verdict on, I believe, Thursday the 13th. I stand to be corrected. The jury came back on Thursday the 13th at around 5 p.m. Opposing counsel made a motion for remediature, which essentially is requesting that the judge reduce the damage award on a basis that it shocks the judicial conscience. The judge informed counsel that he had heard counsel, and because we were supposed to be back in court on the 18th, that was left open. And on the 18th, the judge basically informed counsel that he was not properly before the court on that issue. And then on that same day, the jury had other business related to this case to do, and at the conclusion of which counsel then made a motion for mistrial, which was promptly denied. So as we stand, per the rules, the next step is for the next procedural step is judgment. In spite of counsel's misgivings about what has transpired in court, his recourse lies in following the rules and filing the necessary post.
You say that he made an application for mistrial and that was shut down.
Absolutely, it was shut down by the court.
So are you able to say at the next court date nothing will change about the jury's verdict of guilty of malicious defamation and an award of $18 million?
Well, as we stand, we don't have a next court date. The trial is over. Subject to anyone following the rules and filing a post-trial motion as the judge instructed.
So when is the judgment expected?
We have filed it. There's a 5-day rule. There's a 5-day period after the last hearing by which we were required to file it. We've done so. I believe we did that on Thursday evening.
Okay.
And we noticed that counsel has written a letter to the court, but a letter is not the right way to bring about your grievances related
That's correct.
to this.
That's correct. You don't invoke the court by letter. But this point, quickly before I get to my guest, so when they came back to the court asking that the court reduces the amount of 18 million, he was asking that it should be reduced to how much? How much was he saying he will be able to pay?
They did not specify a number. Once again, the motion was made orally right after the jury came back, and on a few days later, the day before the last hearing, which was on the 18th, on the 17th, counsel filed another letter, and on the 18th, the judge informed counsel that he was improperly before the court, particularly also because this would have been on one day's notice.
Okay.
So I believe that influenced the judge's statements at the end of the jury's work, that anyone who has any grievances approach the court properly within the rules.
All right. Thank you very much. Just hold on for me there. I'm going to my guest, but before I do so, I understand that when the application was being made for a reduction of the 18 million, you showed in court why Kennedy Agyapong could afford the 18 million and therefore it should not be reduced. And we have that footage here. Let's watch that quickly.
After first degree, I asked her to come and work for me for about a year before she goes back to do her master's. And she said, oh, I want to work at the senator's office. I asked, which senator? And he said, New York senator, the black guy. What's his name? I've forgotten.
Okay.
Then he was talking plainly. So I said, look, girl, I sit in Africa and send $52,000 a year to pay your school fees. You are going to work for this senator or a mayor. Do you know how much they're worth? And I can assure you, with the exception of Bloomberg, I think I'm richer than any politician in America. So check. So I asked her to Google. And when he saw
2021, he mentioned for the first time that he was worth over 200 million United States dollars, adding that he was shocked to learn he was worth more than Hollywood actor Denzel Washington.
Then I checked Denzel Washington. I checked, and I was shocked that Denzel Washington, with all the hit movies, worth $250 million. Then I said to myself, why am I worrying too much? I'm not doing badly. I have to stop thinking.
So are you around that range?
Of course, yes. Why not? Why not? Oh, long time ago, get involved.
So in the next 3 years, what car would you be buying? And I'm only picking from what you said, that sometimes you plan what to buy 3 years.
You know,
ahead.
I have a limit. My limit is I'm conservative, and therefore I cannot buy flashy cars, like these sports car, this and that. That's what I'm saying, I'm limited. But I like exclusive ones. Here, this one we have Maybach and the S560 here. When you move to the other apartment, you see Bentley and Rolls Royce, and the other one you see the Cadillac. Plus, Tundra that we use for daily. I wanted to buy another Rolls Royce for my 60th birthday. But because of, in fact, the way I planned my 60th birthday, it coincided with the election. And therefore, I decided to tone it down. Whether you are hardworking or not, negative publicity, it will affect my party. So I said, forget about it. Every day is a party.
What was the plan? What were you thinking?
But it will still come on. I want to assure you.
Well, the 60th birthday will come up, but the party?
But the party will be postponed.
So how were you picturing the party?
I wanted to finish a house, 45-bedroom house, with about 9-10 living rooms. It's going on. It's still going on. It has been
in Ghana?
Made. Yes, I'll do it too. It's
in Accra, Tema?
It's in Tema. As I speak, the workers are there.
Okay. 45 bedrooms?
Yeah, 45 bedrooms. I just want Ghanaians to see that a black man can also do it.
And this
I've
is
done
not,
that in my village.
This is not
so
for a hotel. This is
no.
Okay.
It's not for a hotel.
And then you do the party there, or you move
yes,
in there.
Yes, that is where I wanted to do the party.
Okay.
But unfortunately for me, where we're building, it was, the soil is not that strong. It's water and everything there, like a marshy area. So we had to fill it. It's taking a lot of my time, but I'm not.
You are. I mean, you already just said you have 26 houses only in
I have 108 houses. East Legon is 26. If you want to.
108 houses.
Yes, I work hard.
You work hard. What do you do?
I do a lot of things.
There are some who think that you're a drug dealer.
You see, the drug dealers in the long run, they fail. Okay?
Maybe you are just a smart drug dealer.
You run your mouth on television everywhere criticizing people, and if you are a drug dealer, nobody will say anything to you. You think you are God. And have you ever
Why do people think you're a drug dealer?
Yeah, because I'll be honest with you. If you want, I'll be blunt.
Please do.
About 85% of the successful businessmen in this country, one way or the other, dealt in drugs. And
you're a rich man.
It's 100 Newsfile. 2. Wakakurama Kofwati. 20. That is the bastard alas. Corrupt.
Okay.
Please.
Honorable Kennedy Agyapong.
People.
Yeah, the best year.
Especially, I may come more because I'm so popular. And let me tell you, if I'm guilty, I pay $25 million to start, and it will not affect me. And more, I'm going to die. I'm with you. I'll bring.
Right, thank you very much. And so, Dr. Atta Kennedy, let me begin with you. So, as we understand, this was played in the court to make the point that the reduction he was asking should not be given because he can afford it. He has a lot of money. He's richer. At a point, he was richer than Denzel Washington, and he had actually bragged that he could pay 25 or how many $1 million to announce if he sued him, and he will pay it without blinking. He won't lose anything. What's your first commentary around this issue?
Well, I think that obviously the case has been well litigated, but it may not be done. So we should be careful about comments. It is possible that he might appeal, and I think that when you are
appealing, the case is done. The appeal is different.
Okay.
Right.
Well, we lay people think that the appeals are part of the whole ongoing litigation. I think that both of them got justice, and as long as there has been justice, it's fine. I listened to Anas Ombi yesterday, and he was making comments about what this means to journalists all around Africa and the world, and the fact that what stuck to me was that he said in Africa, sometimes justice is only for the powerful, but the court has shown that justice should not only be for the powerful. So I think it is good for these things to go through fair judicial processes and for people to have confidence in the courts. I hope that Ghana's judiciary is watching, so that in future, whenever they have to adjudicate some of these cases, they will be guided by the supreme interest of the law. I think Attorney Adika was very good in explaining to us what happened, and I hope that would all be guided. And I think that maybe so for advice to Honorable Kennedy Agyapong is that maybe you shouldn't say too much, because a lot of what happened was that they used his words against him. And I also note that there's been an arrest in the Ahmed Swali case. Regardless of what one thinks about this case, I think Ahmed Swali deserves justice, and I hope that eventually he will get justice. That indeed will lead to a trial that will be speedy and fair, and that in the end, whoever the perpetrator was will be brought to justice. That is the best outcome for everybody.
You seem to have joined in a certain comparison that is being made with the courts. for America and in Ghana. And some have said that's an unfair, commentary to make, to compare the courts in America to Ghana and suggest that what their courts in America have done is what is true justice. But in Ghana, justice was compromised. When there was a process in the Supreme Court, the majority decision confirmed the High Court decision. It was the minority that, made some of the comment that Anas himself has spoken about, described the judges' work as that was really bad.
It's a fair point. I think we ought to be careful about the presumption that justice was necessarily served in the U.S. court, but not in Ghana. In actual fact, the U.S. system has had critics too. Among them, President Donald Trump, who thought that some of the treatment he got at the hands of maybe the judicial system wasn't that fair. So, and also, we also need to know the fact that this was a jury trial and the Ghanaian trial was by judges. Sometimes those can lead to different outcomes. But I think that the Ghanaian judiciary should take on board some of the feedback they are getting. And of course, feedback is contextual. This is not a one item. I am on record, as you know, as criticizing the judiciary here, sometimes for political decision making. So it is reasonable for people to speculate that the verdict in Ghana here may have been affected by political influence, even though that is not proven. So both judiciaries have something to learn. And even in the US now, in the last week, for example, President Trump has been critical of judges who have imposed bans on some of his executive actions. So
especially Judge James Boasberg, is that the name? Trump says that judge, and I quote Trump, he says that judge is doing everything in his power to usurp the power of the presidency. He is a local unknown judge, sort of a local champion, a local unknown judge, a grandstander looking for publicity, and it cannot be for any other reason because his rulings are so ridiculous and inept. Save America. Trump, tweeted on March 20, 2025.
Yeah, and the advice for Honorable Kennedy Agyapong sometimes could go to President Trump as well. I think that sometimes he could choose better language. But in defense of the judge, not to talk about whether his judgment was right or wrong, the Chief Justice, John Roberts, issued a very eloquent defense of the judiciary. He said that when people disagree with judgments, the right thing to do is to appeal, and to appeal all the way to the Supreme Court, and not to talk about impeachment of judges or impugning their motives. So I think that was a good defense, and we should also note to the credit of the U.S. judiciary that Nixon, for example, when they took the Watergate tapes case there, even though it had a majority of Republicans, he lost it 9-0. And Biden was handed some significant defeats. And I think that Trump too has suffered and will suffer some defeats. So that is how the judiciary works, and we should be careful about criticizing just because we don't agree with it.
You mentioned the Ahmed Swale murder 2019, which is now getting a first suspect who has been refused bail and is put in custody. Now, I don't know, the coincidence, people are saying it's curious. Are you?
Yes, I am curious, and I worry because the Afoko, the Gregory Afoko case is very fresh in my mind. That we need to pursue justice, but we need to be careful that prosecutors under pressure to quote unquote bring a solution don't maybe even innocently send an innocent man to prison. It will seem as if, for example, in the Gregory Afoko case, something like that happened. Then I remember that there was a U.S. Supreme Court Justice, Justice Souter, who before he became a Supreme Court Justice used to actually serve as Attorney General in the state of New Hampshire. And he said something that I think everybody in the judicial system should keep in mind. He said, in this office, we don't win cases or we don't lose cases, we just prosecute them. And he was saying that to say that sometimes people get so personally invested in quote unquote their success or delivering a corporate that sometimes they trample over the rights of the accused. So I hope that this arrest is not just coincidence and that whoever the person is will get due process and that in the end, both him and the late Ahmed Swale will get the justice that they deserve.
All right. Thank you. Hold on. I'll come back to you shortly. And Alfred Choyebua, thanks for joining us again. And Alfred Choyebua has already made some comments about this particular arrest. Ahmed Swale was assassinated, murdered on the 16th of January 2019. And it's been inextricably, his murder has been inextricably linked to Kennedy Agyapong blowing his cover and showing him on television and saying some other comments. That's what has been the situation. And the suspect who has been picked and in custody now, Daniel Owusu-Koranting, is supposed, a.k.a. Amache, is supposed to have been a former colleague who, according to the police, their process they put in court, he took a picture of him and appears to have taken the picture and sold it or whatever to Kennedy Agyapong. But this is a criminal process. Let's see how it unfolds. Now, Alfred, you may begin by some, brief comment on the defamation matter, and then we go to this particular one. What do you make of the comparisons that are being made with the Ghanaian judiciary? Frank Addison Jr., for example, says that the jury and the court in New Jersey made a silent statement. The system in the West frowns on abuse of power, wealth, and authority, especially when it is intended to intimidate ordinary people. What do you say? And we must put on record that Kennedy Agyapong's lawyers told us that as far as they are concerned, the matter is still ongoing, so they do not want to comment.
Right, thank you very much, Samson. Yes, I've followed the discussions, but before I come to what you asked me to answer, I want to make a very short comment on the Galamsey issue. Just a second on that. The minister has made it to understand that licenses that were issued after December 7th have been revoked. So the question I ask is, those people whose licenses have been revoked, is it not likely that some of them may want to go to court? And so we need to look at that. I'm also looking at Article 268 of the Constitution, which deals with ratification of mining licenses. So did they also go through that process? The minister has to also look at that side of the law. They will look at that. Then fast forward to the case in the US. I've listened to Councillor because I think as counsel in the case, he's in a better position to give us the update on the matter. This was sitting here, only read, he was in court live. But my issue has to do with the comparison that unfortunately Anas made. If you watch his video, you realize that he was trying to compare what we have in the US as against Ghana. And even went to the extent of mentioning the names of judges, especially the trial judge, Justice Barr. I think that's quite unfair. If you get to the US, as something they deal with the jury trials or jury system when it comes to civil matters, especially in defamation. In Ghana, it's a single judge. And if I'm not mistaken, I think Council Adikame want to correct me. The jury there, they deal with the facts, but not the law. Trial of facts. But in Ghana, the judge will deal with the facts and the law. And so if in Ghana you have a judge sitting on a matter to deliver judgment. I mean, you should grant him that right, grant him that kind of thing that he has done as a judge. And if you think that he has done something that is against the law, that's what the law requires. You can also go up on the appellate process. I understand he also did the same thing. And so, and as a lawyer in Ghana, who is also not only a lawyer, is the lines to practice in Ghana, must also be looking at the words that he's been using post this judgment. In any event, you come back to Ghana as a Ghanaian, maybe go to the courts.
You are saying that somebody who loses a suit in the court cannot criticize the judiciary of Ghana that they have been unfair, they didn't give him justice, or that whatever they did was a travesty. Is that not a criticism almost every loser makes?
Samson, I agree with you. If you file a case in court in Ghana and you lose, and you may want to analyze, critique the judgment, it's fair. But when you go to another jurisdiction on the same matter and then you win, and you begin to then compare, it means that you think that US is far better. US is a system where you can have justice and fairness, but if you come to Ghana, you cannot have justice and fairness. People have gone to court who have also lost, or they've won and sought appeal against the judgments. I think it's unfair.
Okay, I get your point. But the comparison that people make, is there not also some sense in it that here we don't have, as it were, laws for the prosecution of a defamation matter, so to speak? We have just small rules within the CI 47, and over and again it's been requested that we need to, promulgate a law like you have in the UK, in the US, but we don't have that yet. Don't you think that their system may be better and preferred in the sense that it's not a sole judge who is sitting and deciding your case? Here there's a jury, and you have 8 jurors who sit and assess the facts. Some say that is better than allowing one judge, if they have prejudices, biases, and so on, that is unchecked.
Samson, Ghana, we have the system when it comes to first-degree felonies like murder and the rest. But there are a level of criticism that people are saying that, and indeed, if you look at that system, now it's even under attack. The people who sit as jurors, who are they? What's the caliber of such people?
Yeah, the CJ is reforming it.
Let's pray and hope that we can reform it. But if you have a system where the jury will go to court, after court to come back to their homes, go to churches, watch television, go to the stadium, listen to people, discuss matters, sometimes they even discuss issues that they are sitting on. How fair do you expect such a system to deliver justice? And so if we have a single judge who can sit on it and deliver justice, why not? US, perhaps their system is a bit better because they are far advanced. But in Ghana, even with the little that we are practicing since 1960, jury trials, we are beset with a lot of problems. I don't know how we can resolve those challenges. And so I'm not for that. I think we should still use judges when it comes to civil matters. Perhaps we may want to reform it in a way, if that's a suggestion, that in some cases we may want to have a judge. You don't have a single judge sitting on it. You can have 2 or 3 or 5 judges sitting on it. That's another ball game. But I would never support a situation where in civil matters you have a jury sitting in it with a judge.
Okay.
Because what you have experienced so far is not something that we can actually be proud of.
Okay. So shall we move on to the Ameswale issue?
Yes.
Yes. So that issue, you seem to suggest that the police may not have sufficient evidence to proceed on, because for all the years that you were seized with this matter, you couldn't make the decision that this was what to be done. But what the police are telling us, and as we see in the court documents, is that they have been after this Daniel Owusu Koranting for a long time. They invited him, and they seem to suggest that he escaped out of the country, and he just came back, and they got word and went to arrest him.
Yes, when we were in office, this docket was presented to our ministry after the police had conducted their investigations. After going through the docket and reviewing same, we realized that there wasn't enough evidence to warrant the prosecution of anyone. And we further directed the police to do further investigation. So I'm happy that today the police have been able to do some form of investigations and come out with a suspect who has been placed before the law courts. I'm not suggesting that the police does not have enough evidence today to prosecute someone.
Okay.
But only raise the issue. Do they actually have it? If they have it, I mean, it's something that we are all for. Murders are things that we should not tolerate in our society. I mean, impunity is something that we must all fight against. And so if today the police are able to arrest someone, I'm not saying that gentleman is guilty. I mean, I have to issue that kind of disclaimer.
Innocent until proven guilty, yeah.
Exactly. If they're able to get some evidence and they are prosecuting, I hope and pray that they have enough evidence to prosecute him in court. As Dr. Kennedy said, sometimes you want to put people before court for the fun of it, not in the negative sense, but you'll be exposed when it comes to the actual hearing of the matter. And so it's my expectation that the police, so far as they've arrested him, they should have enough evidence that should warrant the continuous prosecution of that gentleman.
Why do you seem to be doubtful, however small the doubts? Once the police have arrested the person, they are put him in court and they are proceeding, someone of your stature and the benefits you have had, should you have these doubts?
It's so easy for you to put someone before court, but very difficult to prove a case against an accused person. You know, as a former prosecutor, I know that the standard required of you is to prove the guilt of an accused person beyond reasonable doubt. And so if you're not very sure, when it comes to murder, committal proceedings, I mean, at district magistrate court, you can be going there, but after the committal proceedings, that's where the game starts at the high court. So I'm just waiting. That's what I'm saying. I'm just praying that they can do the committal proceedings well. The accused person or the accused person committed to stand right in the high court, then we'll look at the bill of indictment. If they have enough evidence, I mean, we should all support the police and the Attorney General's office to prosecute this gentleman if he actually did cause the death of Ahmed Swane.
He's charged with murder. And you just left office. That's the surprise to people. Dampare was there, and you may hear some rumors around all of this, why it would have only taken the new IGP to get this kind of thing done. It's surprising, isn't it? That's just when you leave, and just when the IGP Dampare leaves, the next morning, this suspect is apprehended.
It's a bit surprising, Samson. And my worry is the Attorney General's office relies on the investigation conducted by state agents, police, CID, Yoku, and the rest. And so sometimes you may sit in the ministry, write letters to the police, asking them to do further investigations. And because the police CID is not under the AG directly, but reports to the Interior Ministry, even if they don't respond within time, you cannot do all that much. You'll tell you we are working on it. So I'm looking at a system where one day we will have the Attorney General's office having its own investigators, crack investigators, who report directly to the Attorney General, so the Attorney General can control when it comes to the investigation into various cases. During our time, I said, we wrote to the police asking them or directing them to do further investigations, but they will tell you we are conducting investigations and we cannot force them. And I mean, surprisingly, we left about 2-3 months ago. Dampare leaves, and within that week, someone is arrested. It's quite curious.
Okay, so what's the level of your faith that this may lead to what we have all been looking for since January 2019 when the murder occurred? What's the level of your faith? On a ratio of 1 to 10, where will you stand?
I'm looking at 7 out of 10. I'm looking at 7 out of 10, but the investigators must not do armchair investigation. That appears to be our challenge. You have quite a lot of investigators in this country who only go to the police, the police CID office, or whether it's NIB, whether it's National Security or Yoku, and they take only statements of suspects or accused, but they're doing further investigations. When they come to court, it's about what they took from the accused person. So in case like this, I expect that the police should not rest for now. They must come further. For you may know, there will be other people behind this dastardly act. And so if they are prosecuting, I commend them for initiating it, but they must not rest and they must not be doing armchair investigations in this particular matter. They must go to the field.
You have not known them, you work with them, you have not known them to do armchair investigations, right?
Sometimes, it's not all the time. I mean, in private practice, at the time that we're in private practice, some of us were telling them on how they've been conducting investigations. But you may have instances where you expect the investigators to go to the field, do further work. Perhaps in this particular matter, they've done a lot of investigations. I remember that in the course of reviewing the case, we're told that, was it the phone or something had been sent to the FBI in the US on that further investigations. And so maybe they've gotten something much from that investigation. They must collaborate with other sister agencies within and without and come to a conclusion where all Ghanaians will be happy to find the killers of Ahmed Suale.
Right. And it is possible that the collaboration you are talking about is going on, right?
It's very possible since I'm out of it, because at the time that we were there, we were told that they have sent some phones to the US FBI.
Right.
So I expect that they are doing other things, yes.
Right. How material is it? And I suppose this will not be something that the police just suddenly chanced on. In the brief facts accompanying the charge, they say that this person who has been arrested, also a journalist. Let me read the brief fact. It's not much, so let me read all of it, and we can project it on the TV for you to see as well. They say that this process began with a petition from Ibrahim Khamer Tahidu, who is a relative of the deceased Ahmed Hussein Suale, while the accused, Daniel Owusu Kuranting alias Amache, is a managing director of iSpy Company. Both Ahmed Suale and the accused were employees of Tiger Eye Company, led by Anas Armiyaw Anas. The accused had multiple interactions with the deceased and his family before his death. Tensions escalated in June 2018 when Honorable Kennedy Agyapong broadcasted images of Ahmed Suale on Net 2 TV, calling for retribution against the investigative journalist. The deceased, Ahmed Suale, later identified the accused. So it is the dead Ahmed Suale who identified this accused person. Later identifies the accused as the person who provided Honorable Agyapong with his photographs. On January 16, 2019, following the publication of the deceased images, he was shot and killed in Medina. Call records placed the accused in Medina near Suale's residence before and at the time of the murder. Further analysis showed that later that same day, the accused traveled from Medina to his residence in Amasaman late in the evening at about 23:15 hours after the murder. During the investigation, the accused declined multiple police invitations and later fled to the United Kingdom somewhere in August 2019. Accused later returned to Ghana and with an intelligence led to his arrest in Amasaman on the 15th of March 2025. He admitted knowing the deceased, visiting Honorable Kennedy Agyapong, and having taken photographs with the deceased, but denies selling the photographs to anyone. Police investigation is ongoing to identify other suspects in the case. How does this feel to you?
First question, from the facts, the accused person fled to the UK and later came back to Ghana. So how come that when he got to the airport in Accra, if he can definitely come to Kotoka International Airport or any other border post, they could not identify him and then got him arrested? That's a key question. Because if you know that a murderer, suspected murderer has traveled out, definitely he should be, his record should be on a stop list. So any airport that he gets to, you'll be able to be tracked. I've listened to the lawyer for the accused person. He says otherwise. So that's the first point. Then if you look at the court records, here, let me commend the police for doing that painstaking investigations. Because if indeed he was close to his house, he fled the scene to where he lives at Amasaman. I mean, circumstantially, you may want to construct a case of his possible culpability in the murder of Ahmed Swale. But facts are different from evidence. Sometimes you know instance where you go to court and the facts will be given, but when it comes to the evidence, the prosecution will be found wanting.
Especially for us defense lawyers, we are always excited.
Yeah. Exactly. Because now I'm a defense counsel. I'm no longer a prosecutor.
Yeah.
And so
I like the place you sit now.
Exactly. And so if you give these facts, it's the expectation of the prosecution.
Okay.
That evidence to back the facts that you have given. And if all these things are to be connected and they are indeed true, then it means that the suspect will have some case to answer in court.
Okay, thank you very much. I don't know if Dr. Kennedy wants to make a brief comment before we stop here and take a break, return to Dr. Addison, Adwoa Safo, and their troubles. One trouble with party, one trouble with the national security. But the GJA issued a statement applauding the Ghana Police Service for the arrests and prosecution of the Ahmed Swale murder suspect. They actually also indicated that the death of Ahmed Swale and the failure of the police to find his killers has been a major drawback to Ghana's World Press Freedom Index over the past 6 years. And in keeping to our resolve to get to the bottom of this case, the GJA is keenly following the current developments, and they say they had an ultimatum to take the Ahmed Swale case to the Economic Community of West Africa, court, and also they were exploring other avenues of seeking justice if Ghana failed to get justice for Ahmed Swale. Dr. Kennedy.
Yeah, some brief comments. It will be interesting to engage Honorable Alfred Tuayeboa on reforming police investigations and others, and more particularly on his view about the competence of juries versus judges. I think that he conflates academic sophistication with integrity and good judgment. You know, as Anas Arimeya's investigation showed, I mean, maybe there is quite a bit of corruption in our judiciary, and sometimes they may know more law, but I don't know about their integrity. And growing up, there are actually complete illiterates who have very good judgment about facts of a case. So I think we should be careful not to impugn the general concept of juries. Sometimes they show more common sense than judges.
Interesting.
Otherwise, I also think that in this case that you read to us, there is still a very big question mark about motive. You know, I don't know, and I think that hopefully the trial will show that. But I am worried about.
And that is essential, Doc. The motive is very essential in a criminal prosecution. You must prove what we call the mens rea and the actus reus. The actus reus is the actual action or act, and the mens rea is the wicked mind to do the thing.
Well stated, counsel.
All right, thank you. So let me get a last word from Selassie. Are you still with us?
Yes, I am.
Great. So where we are now, can you say you are proceeding to recover 18 million from Kennedy Agyapong, and you can do that in the US?
Well, that still remains to be seen. But before I answer your question, I'd like to make a correction. The video you played was part of our presentation to the jury on the question of punitive damages, which we use that evidence as part of our cumulative presentation to show that in addition to certain statements that he made previously, that we needed a strong deterrent, and the only deterrent that can work in this case is a high damages award.
Thanks for the correction.
That was not submitted as part of the remittiture. Okay,
thanks
so to answer your question, as I said, opposing counsel has the opportunity to file post-trial motions by the letter that they submitted yesterday. It suggests that they're going to do so. So we'll wait for that to happen, and the court will perhaps set a date for that. We've submitted the proposed judgment for the judge's signature. We don't see any reason why that wouldn't be signed, because the post-judgment motions can address whatever misgivings opposing counsel may have, or the Honorable Kennedy Agyapong's legal team may have about that. So we'll cross that bridge when we get there. But as it stands right now, our position is just that the jury has returned a verdict.
And that verdict will be entered as the judgment.
We filed the necessary documents, processes for that to happen, yes.
All right. Thank you very much for your time, sir. All right. So that was one of the lawyers for Anas Aramia Anas in the case in the E6 County Court in the United States of America. And that's the matter in respect of which he's been awarded damages to the tune of 18 million United States dollars by a jury. And now there's a debate as to whether that amount will in fact is what will be entered as the court's judgment, and whether or not they will get it. Kennedy Agyapong's lawyers are taking other processes because they want the amount reduced, or they had also asked for a mistrial, and as we understand, that was shut down. And so that'll be it for this. We will take a quick break and return. Evans Selassie Adeka, member Anas Aramia Anas's legal team. We still have Alfred Tuayabua, former Deputy Attorney General, and he did a lot of the prosecutions that you saw. Under their time, he watched over them and actually went to court to deal with them as well. Of course, Godfrey Dami himself also went to do some of them by himself. Dr. Arthur Kennedy, Kobina Kennedy, is a physician and political activist. Joined the NPP's presidential candidature many years ago, and he was voted the man with the most and the best ideas. And yet it appears his pocket was not deep enough, so he didn't get any votes apart from one. We'll be right back.
Those who challenge the norm, I think it was Robert Kennedy who said some people see situations and ask why. Some envisage solutions and ask why not. So we are looking for impact makers who see situations in their communities, think of solutions and ask why not. You know, those who challenge the situations that impoverish people, those who challenge situations that exclude, citizens from exercising their rights, from accessing their rights, from enjoying the benefits of being Ghanaians, and those who speak truth to power. Those are the kind of impact makers that, I think, we should be aiming to identify, we should be aiming to celebrate, and we should be aiming to reward. Who leads by example? somebody who is helping to address a salient issue in a community, an issue that is critical to vulnerable groups, disadvantaged groups, excluded social groups in their communities. Someone who is seeking to make a change without looking for remuneration, without looking for compensation, that he or she is doing it for altruistic reasons, but also somebody who is willing to join hands with others rather than say that this is my project or this is my activity, but wants to join hands with others, to make life better. I would hope that given the brand, the recognition, the legitimacy of Joy and multimedia, any recognition coming from this station, coming from this company, is in itself something to be celebrated. So I think they feel adequately rewarded. But I also think that it inspires them to do more. That the example of they being celebrated on TV and radio and online would also inspire other people to say, let me also do similar.
5 a.m. March 19, National Security operatives conducted a search at the home of former Governor Dr. Anderson, but without any arrests. National Security has declined comments on the search. Minority Leader in Parliament Alexander Afenyo-Markin, who has visited the scene after the raid, swiftly condemned the National Security operations as lawless and alleged a political witch hunt. He also accused the National Security operatives of theft.
They forced their way, overpowered the security, and entered his premises. This Rambo-style approach must cease. This is the first time in the history of our country that a governor of a central bank is being subjected to such a treatment. Unfortunately for the governor, some 10,000 cedis on his bed could not be found.
The latest raid follows another home search of former Finance Minister Ken OFORI-ATTA on February 11. Ken OFORI-ATTA sued the National Security operatives for allegedly trespassing on his home and is seeking damages. Speaking on the issue on the floor of Parliament, Majority Leader Mahama apologized and assured Parliament it would not happen again.
I have called the relevant stakeholders in the matter to find out exactly what happened. We want to say and assure our fellow countrymen and our colleagues in this House that we have received assurances from the Office of the National Security Coordinator that it was not intended that that should happen, and that occurrence is most regrettable and unfortunate, and he wants to give this House his word and assurance that a thing like that should never happen again.
But that assurance has been broken. The Minority Caucus now claims these raids are part of a larger strategy to intimidate former government officials and others connected to the NPP. But there's been an immediate pushback from the Mahama government. Deputy Attorney General Dr. Justice Semsai insists recent actions by National Security are lawful and targeted.
The views are divided, but I would like to assure the public that we are, as much as we can, pursuing persons who are believed or are suspected to have looted, state assets, being money or other properties. Every search that you see, is part of the government framework to fight the corruption, and we'll take responsibility for the search that are happening. And we want to make it clear that those searches and the mode in which they were done in accordance with law, warrants were procured and warrants were used to conduct those searches.
But the opposition remains unconvinced, warning that these actions threaten democracy. The NPP has also protested recent arrest of journalist Okatechi Afrifa-Mensah, linking it to a broader crackdown. For now, the political storm rages on. The question remains, are these legitimate anti-corruption efforts or politically motivated intimidation?
Very bogus committee.
Why do you say so?
Why? And you know, a committee that is put together, and it's an intentional committee put together just to make sure that we find certain facts and push a particular candidate away from the candidacy so that we can bring our own. You call that a credible committee, fact-finding committee? If Professor Michael Quay thinks he has integrity, thinks that he is credible, I want the first page of his fact-finding report. Why my son Michael Quay Jr. lost Domeko Abenya's seat. He should give us a detailed report on that.
That is possible.
If he's able, no.
It is possible it could be captured.
No, if he's able to do it, and do it with the needed integrity, with the transparency, without biases and prejudices, I will take any report finding that he puts in there against Dr. Bawumia. You remember that in 2020, when I was going for the elections, I was heavily pregnant.
Right.
Yes, I have a role to play as a mother. I lost my kid. I lost my baby. I didn't get what I was expecting out of the term of my pregnancy. It didn't end there. In the time of my grief, my oldest son fell ill in the United States. I had to be there. And I made sure I notified those who ought to know. And I wasn't there the way they're making the picture look as if you're there and you're not. I was there, and I was making sure that what ought to be said and communicated to all those that matter, I did.
Including the chief of staff, the president?
Exactly. As a minister, you can't travel out without permission from the minister.
So the
chief of staff.
They knew the challenges we were going through.
Exactly. And I expected mothers to feel my pain. I expected fathers to feel my pain. And that is what happened. My son was at the verge of death. I had the choice to stay as a mother and take care of my son, or take up my position as a member of parliament and as a minister. Any mother looking and watching me today should put herself in my shoes. What choice would you have made? Of course, if you're not a witch, you're going to choose that of your child.
Right. So, once again, start with you, Dr. Arthur Kennedy. What do you make of these two situations? Let's begin with Dr. Addison, the search conducted in his home. Earlier, we were told that Ken OFORI-ATTA, the search that was conducted in his home was without a warrant, but we got information that it was actually done with a warrant. Then now this happens. It's also being called a raid. Our checks suggest that this was a normal process that was done. The courts gave a warrant, and the warrants for the purposes of the search that was conducted in the home, and the things that were taken away from the home did not include stealing money, but these were, call them hard drives, that needed to be examined because the former governor is suspected of having an installation that gives him the capacity to spy into what is happening in the bank and to retrieve some documents as well. What do you say about that? Before Ajuasafo's situation, where she said she will not shut up. The party is hauling her for disciplinary action. Having followed her, do you think that she's done anything wrong by stating her side of the accusation she has faced?
So if we're taking both together, let me begin with Dr. Addison's case. I listened to Honorable Mahama Ayarige's submission on the floor of Parliament, I think that...
that was in respect of Ken OFORI-ATTA.
Yes. I think that it will seem the promise he made may not have been kept fully. But I also think that there ought to be accountability. The security forces and the law enforcement agencies ought to be able to do their work. I think maybe the procedures need to be updated a little bit so that, for example, if they went there with a warrant, when they got there or after, he should have been able to get his attorneys there to witness the search, so that there will be proper documentation of whatever was taken up from there so that there will be no dispute. I am saddened by the fact that this has already been turned into a partisan back and forth when it should actually be objective and principled law enforcement. But to be fair, the MPP people who are complaining, when the MPP was in government, there were similar complaints from the other side too. I think we need to be careful to depoliticize these things so that they can happen objectively and partisan correlation will not come in. Maybe we also need to make sure that we professionalize our security forces so that some of these things can be done in a way that do not look as if this is a military government that is doing operations and are not guided by rules. That aside, I think that we should await further evidence that maybe laws or procedures were breached as far as Dr. Addison's case is concerned.
Okay.
Due process accountability.
Right. So, Doc, hold it there for me. Alfred Choibua, thanks for staying with us still on this. What do you say? When you are conducting a search with a warrant and you show up in the house of a suspect, do you need their lawyers to be there?
Thank you very much, Samson. Actually, it is not clearly stated in our laws whether your lawyer should be present before a search is conducted. But I think, as suggested by Dr. Kennedy, if we want to reform that side of the law, it will be better. After all, the moment you are served with or you are shown that warrant, notionally, you are under arrest because you should be part of the process.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you may want to insist that you want your lawyers to come so that they can conduct a search, I'm all for it. I remember some time ago.
And the point you just made, that kind of process suggests an arrest, and therefore Article 14 will be triggered. So the person will be told in a language they understand that this is why we are here and you are being arrested, and then they will exercise their right to a lawyer of their choice. We understand that this warrant was actually not just a search, but for arrest as well.
Oh, then that answers the question. If it was for an arrest as well as a search, then Dr. Addison ought to have been given the opportunity to get in touch with his lawyers for the process to go on. Because the moment they came into his residence, he was under a form of restriction. Couldn't have said that he was walking away. And so his right under Article 14 came into force the moment they showed him the warrant and then was informed that he was to be arrested or he was under arrest and they were to conduct a search as well.
But it is upon him, the person, the suspect, to say that I want to call a lawyer or I want to do this. If the suspect doesn't say so, then those who are doing the process are not under obligation. Are they? As we understand, there was a cordial process. Nice conversation actually went on. But there's the other side. We are also picking from the Addison side that initially it was not cordial. until there appears to have been a call to the lead person, and then they seem to have toned down and allowed for some bit of, nice cooperation, we understand, and some even conversation, chit-chat that went on.
Something. The moment you are told that you are under arrest, the arresting officer is under strict obligations to inform you of your right to a lawyer of your choice. And so if indeed they went there to effect his arrest, it was incumbent upon the arresting officers to inform Dr. Addison of his right to a lawyer of his choice, if that is indeed the case. Now, if what you're also being told is that it was initially very cordial, then later went into something different.
No, it started rough, then went to cordial, as we understand
very
now.
well. And so that is the essence of the discussion. How do we conduct a search? The fact that you have a search warrant does not mean that the suspect that you are going to conduct a search on has no right. The right to personal dignity is a fundamental right. The right to counsel is a fundamental right. If the suspect is not resisting the search, then there will be no need on the part of the officer searching to apply any unreasonable force.
Right. In your experience, have you ever encountered a search that was cordial, a search come into your home and it is a cordial process? And we also need to disabuse the minds of the public where the impression is given as if a warrant is always required for some of these things. Sometimes it is done without a warrant, but it is lawful, correct?
Correct. If you are going to conduct a search without a warrant, then the person leading that search should be of a certain rank in the security agencies. But if you are going with a warrant, then that officer will only read the warrant to you. And I remember quite well when we were in Legon those days that we were going to constitutional law. The question came up that if a warrant is served on you or you are shown a warrant and the name on it is not your name, can the search go on? And so if you enter someone's residence, for example, in the case of Dr. Addison, I'm giving just a scenario, it doesn't mean that's what happened. And then the name on it is Alfred Suya Yeboah. Does it mean that Dr. Addison should just give you and say, oh, since you are in my residence and my name is not the name that's captured on the warrant, you can go ahead and then conduct that search. So if you are imposed or if you are holding a search warrant, you must effect it in accordance with law. And I was citing this example. When we're in office, you can have several cases that I think if you go to the age, you will see that people were searched, either with a warrant or without a warrant. And I quite remember that my Dr. Sremsai, who's now the deputy AG, there was a case in Tema where he filed an application contending that an ex-parte application that we had used to procure a search warrant ought not to have been ex-parte, but should have been on notice. I mean, now Doc is sitting on the other side. And we battled out in court in Tema. And there was a ruling to that effect that the state could go ahead and procure search warrants ex-parte.
Of course. If it is procured on notice, then there will be nothing to search.
Exactly. I remember those times telling Dr. Srems, I said, Doc, I mean, you are hitting, I mean, you want to go by your side of the argument. But if we were to notify suspects that they were to be searched, for them to come and oppose before the court gives an by the time they even oppose, the court gives everything that you wanted to search is already gone.
How do you propose this issue quickly about that? So we go to the last one. How do you propose this issue about alleged theft? How do you propose that should be resolved?
Yes, Samson, that's very key. Now, if you go into the residence of a suspect and you are conducting a search, the suspect must be present. Or if a suspect is already present, at least you get someone independent between, of the suspect and then you, so that he can also observe the proceedings. But in this particular instance, I don't know what happened. If what Doc's side is saying is true, that 10,000 Ghana cedis and other jewelry were allegedly stolen, now we've taken the thing to a different dimension, that those who went to effect the search have rather committed a crime. And that's why moving forward, I suggest that any officer who goes to conduct a search must have a body cam on him or her.
All right.
With that, if you had an issue like this, it could be easily resolved. But my key concern is about this allegation that the CCTV camera, the systems there were deactivated in the course of the search. And that raises some form of issue. You may take it away, but before you even take it away, let everything be captured on that CCTV camera. Then if you want to take it away for investigation, they are saying they are seeking to do. No problem.
Thank you.
But the moment you deactivate it when you enter the residence, then it speaks to motive.
That's right. Thank you very much. And we have been speaking to, trying from sources to check on all of these things, and its accusation and counter denials. But like Dr. Kennedy said, we should wait for further and better particulars later so that we will begin to know the full details. Somehow, national security, when they're doing these things, they don't talk. And we're also beginning to see some new thing, something that looks commendable. The Deputy Attorney General, they have done an arrest of an important person, so to speak, who also was coming from the UK to the country. And the person, together with the wife or a woman, have been arrested. They are in custody. And then they go to visit them, ask them if they are being treated well, and they confirm that they are being treated well. They are allowed, their lawyers are allowed to see them, and so on and so forth. If we do it this way, it will be great. I remember going to the BNI and being denied the opportunity to see my client, and that was such a breach of the law many years ago. All right, Dr. Kennedy, we're going to address Afo's thing. She says she's being gagged. Hakman Owusu-Agyeman and others say the statement issued by the General Secretary asking her to shut up, and also asking everybody to shut up, and also seeking to put her through disciplinary process is in order.
Well, that is part of why we are where we are. Sometimes elders don't behave like elders. They allow knives in the home to be used in carving pythons. And when we accuse them of being python eaters, they get a little disappointed. I think that party defeats lead to disappointments all over the world. And most of the time it is followed a little bit by recrimination. People look for who to blame. So for example, in 1980, when Jimmy Carter lost to Ronald Reagan, the Democrats didn't invite him to a party conference again for decades because they thought that putting him in front of the public cost them votes. So the United States, for example, there have been talk about Kamala Harris and, how they blew almost 2 billion and lost to Trump. So these things happen, but they must be done decorously. I respectfully think that the General Secretary, while he may have good intentions, erred in issuing his edict. It is not even clear to me whether he has the constitutional authority to do that as an individual, or whether even the party can do that, given Ghana's rules of freedom of expression and all those kinds of things. So while his intention is good, I will respectfully suggest that he seriously consider withdrawing the edict. As far as Adwoa Safo is concerned, I think she appears to be very hurt, and she had said a lot of things very powerfully. The thing that got to me the most was the alleged remarks about her father's education and standing. I hope those are not true, but if they are true...
Makoke Jr. has denied them.
Yes. So if he has denied them, then I'll just leave it at that. But it goes to the fact that when we are having primaries, those primaries ought to be monitored, and they ought to be conducted in a way that will make it easy to put the party back together. We have primaries in which people get beaten and they get damaged, and the candidates concerned, nothing happens to them. But having said all that, I want to respectfully appeal to Honorable Adwa to stand down and tone down. I understand her to speak, but I respectfully ask her to stand down and tone down. I think a political party is like a marriage or a relationship. It is the biggest volunteer thing we do, and we do it out of love. So I urge all people in the MPP, while they are expressing their opinions, to do that with the knowledge that in the end, we have to come together and to win elections. We cannot compel obedience. The people who went to elect John Mahama, they said he got 25% of his votes from MPP people. And they were being patriotic Ghanaians. And hopefully in future, we will also win with some NDC votes. And I look forward to working with the NDC people who will vote for a future presidential candidate of our party. So while we are doing all these discussions, the goal is to rebuild the MPP stronger so that it will become once again the party of Dubois and Darocha and John Agyapong Kufuor, which can go forward in elections. But while we are doing this, there is also the work of being a constructive opposition so that we can call the government out for the things it is properly and offer alternatives. Every Ghanaian is interested in having a viable MPP, and to have that, the work of being a constructive opposition must continue. I, for example, heard Agyapong Nkrumah in Parliament last week on the budget, and he was excellent. So we need to be able to, as they say, run and eat our yokagare at the same time. We should rebuild and also be a constructive opposition. And I ask all of us to do this with respect, but issuing edicts is not the way to go.
You say the Constitution, in Chapter 5 allows for freedom of expression, and she was exercising a constitutional, right, and the Constitution trumps the party's constitution, except the party's constitution to conform with the constitution of the country. But she has subscribed to the party's constitution. The party's constitution is against anti-party conduct that, as it were, brings the party into disrepute. And there are many significant people in the NPP who have suffered disciplinary action because of similar conduct. Why should she be treated differently?
Actually, I am not asking that she should be treated differently. I think that the problem with the MPP is that we apply these edicts selectively, and this has happened for some time. For example, during Kufuor's time, somebody who was on suspension, Haruna Iseku, was actually restored and moved straight into the national chairmanship of the party because powerful people decided that his suspension was unnecessary. The same thing happened in 2008, even though I know of at least 10 MPP members in good standing who were denied the right to be parliamentary candidates because, quote unquote, they had not nurtured the party enough. And then we went ahead and picked a non-party member to be running mate. I am just saying that we cannot say that these are our rules and then ignore them when the powerful want them ignored. And the same thing happened. Nana Akufo-Addo said in 2008 that those who had gone independent, if I win, I'll never have anything to do with them. I won't talk to them. The day after the first round, he was calling them because we needed their help. Some of them went on to be leaders. Even in the divided parliament, some of them, contrary to the party's rules, became leaders. I'm just saying that the party ought to be consistent and fair in the application of rules. And this particular edit of Gagan Adwa, even before coming to that, a lot of people have vented, including the General Secretary. He was all over the news talking about how The president won't listen to advice. This person won't do this. Or say Chairman Sabons was on air talking about the problems. I was on air talking about the problems. Why is it that all of a sudden Adwoa Safo talks? Is it because she's a woman? Is it because she's attacking particular people? And I disagree with most of what she's saying, but I'm just saying that we build a party with love. It have been okay for the general secretary or somebody to go and see her, to ask her to tone down. All those things are to number.
Okay.
We do run people out of parties to build it.
All right. Thank you very much. Actually, we're told of this report about the fact that she had one other interview, was it yesterday or Thursday? And some party people, elders, drove to her house and decided to block her from going and to plead with her not to go and speak any further. Let me hear from Alfred Choyeboa on this matter, whether can you take a stance that is different from the party? And if you can't or you won't, what will be the justification? Looking at it from where Dr. Atta Kennedy is coming from. And I must say that in respect of the search in Dr. Addison's house, I'm again informed that normally is the BNI or NIB officers who are involved, and they have a system where everything they do during a search is recorded, and that's become the standard. And so it is very obvious that this would also have been recorded. Yes, Alfred Choyeboa.
All right, Samson.
Are you gagging? Are you seeking? Is the party seeking to gag Adwoa Safo?
Far from that. Far from that. Adwoa Safo, as a citizen, has the right to express her opinion on any issue, including issues in the party. But if you are in a political party, you are also governed by the constitution of that party. And that if the party takes a position or a stand on the matter and you disagree, you use the internal processes to vent your disagreement. I mean, it's only when maybe you are blocked, you're not given the opportunity, then maybe you may want to go outside the party structure to come up with your comments or opinions. Now, if you look at Adwoa Safo's comment, on hindsight, maybe she could have decided not to go on in the public space to give those kind of comments that she gave. Fortunately, within the party, there is a committee that's seeking to elicit views from people on why the party lost the last elections. She may have legitimate concerns that she could also articulate through that particular committee.
What's her crime? What's her crime? That at the school feeding, there's a problem there, the government should pay attention. Somebody who was there previously attempted to compromise her corruptly and she resisted it. That when she was not available, she had lost a pregnancy and her son was also dying, and that's why she was not available. And so people told lies about her. It was unfair. And that what? Her father's transport business, the regional minister tried to shut them, and they took away, the bus terminal that they were using, and presently it is not being put to any use. What did she say wrong?
Yes, Adwoa Safo stated what she knows about herself and then the party and her family. I'm not contesting that. But I'm only saying that because the party is now having this committee that's trying to investigate or get views of people on why the party lost, or you may know, these issues that she has raised also contributed to the party losing in some of the concerns that we have in the country, especially at Dome Kwabenya.
Right.
And so she may have that point, but my view is that at least she may want to rather use the internal process of the party to vent her demands. Each one of us may have something to say when it comes to the reasons for the party's failure or defeat in the last elections. Okay. Some say, I also wanted to contest in our elections.
Right.
Eventually, I didn't contest. There may be issues, but I will not go out to say A, B, C, D. I will use the party structures, maybe tell them, This is what happened, and maybe
thank you very much. You are a gentleman. Thank you very much. Thanks to all of you. Thanks for staying tuned to Newsfile. And my outfit, as always, is by Konati Clothing. And in the spirit of Ramadan Kareem, right? You make your orders 10% to 15% discount. Call them 0244 6767 32 0244 676732, and they will make you look good for your Ramadan. I'm Samson Ladi Anyanini, and thank you to Alfred Chua and Atta Kobna Kennedy, Dr. Atta Kobna Kennedy, and Adika Selassie of the Anasis legal team, and Awula Sewa, as well as the Honorable Ama Kofibwa. Have a good afternoon.
Bank of Africa, as strong as a group, as close